and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Muncie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Hey, very good afternoon to you. Rochester's only local sports talk show is on the air. You found the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us this afternoon. We appreciate you checking in at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, our video stream on our YouTube channel and on Twitch at The Fan Rochester, even on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. I'm Danger, that's Battaglia.
We only spot things here in the trends in the sports bar. It was yesterday pointing out the stats of Anthony Richardson and how through 250 attempts, technically he's the fourth worst quarterback since the year 1990. That isn't good. The change for the Colts today. That's one of the headlines, many headlines here today. Danger, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, ready to get after it here in the Sports Bar today, and just still kind of riding this high of everything that we had in the sports equinox yesterday. I mean, no matter what your flavor, your brand of vodka, you had something. If you wanted the NBA, you had it. If you're a Sabres person, you wanted to what?
Wait, full stop. What was good from a local standpoint last night? Tell me. The Yankees, bleep the bed, okay? The Giants, don't get me started. If you're a Steeler fan, okay, you won this the way Steelers did. Rasmus Dahlin, he scores, but then he's doing dumb things. What was actually good about last night other than there was a lot of it last night?
Yeah, I guess that's my point.
Yeah, none of it was good.
It's like drinking water from a fire hose.
It was like you had ample sports on last night, but if you're watching the World Series – okay, we could debate some things like, should you have sent Stanton? Should you have pitched to Ohtani? Like, the Yankees have been a no-show. So, Yankee fans, I feel for you. I'm not here to kick you while you're down, but that wasn't good. The Giants should fire Brian Daboll. Tell me.
I'm worried about the guy. It's clear he has no chill. He isn't very presidential. He doesn't give off real great leadership energy. He's a hothead for the sake of being a hothead, and I don't get the sense that his team is responding. I think we're one step away from the Giants quitting on their coach. I think that's happening before the season is up. I think before the season is up, you will see a Giants team quit on Brian Daboll. And the sad thing is, they were in it last night. My Steeler fan friends at 6-2 are still not believers in this team. And I get it. They're realistic. They're pragmatic. They see a bad Giants team and they say, you know what, if we were a good team, we would beat the Giants by 3 scores. Instead, we're trading field goals with them and letting them hang around until the very end. And we've got the toughest part of our schedule coming up. Maybe at 6-2, this is as good as it gets for the Steelers beating the Giants on Monday Night Football. I want to say the last time the Steelers lost a home Monday Night Football game, I was still in high school.
I will say this: Monday night or Sunday night, the Bills beat the Steelers on a Sunday night. Granted, was Duck Hodges was the quarterback that night,
right?
But a friend of the show, he's the Gates Chili football head coach, Andre Fontenette, taught me this phrase years ago. Like, there are penalties because you're getting outmanned. There's holding, pass interference. The ones you cannot forgive are the pre-snap penalties.
The administrative penalties.
Administrative penalties is what Andre calls them.
Yeah.
Those administrative penalties It's the final Monday night in October, and you're the Giants, and you can't figure out where to line up. For the Jets, that mattered too. I mean, they were sloppy in that regard in their loss to the Patriots. But that, to me, is, all right, are you well coached or not? And just to see, like, a pre-snap penalty, and then it's good TV, I suppose, cut away to Brian Dable. Yeah, that's he acts like a fan on the sideline.
No, he's I watch him. I'm like, the guy has no chill, and I don't think that act is going to work. I don't think it works with his team. I don't think, even when you see him try to coach and spending time with his quarterback, I don't believe it, and I don't think the quarterback responds to it. I think Daniel Jones should be put in prison. He was stealing money from the Giants. He is stealing money from the New York Football Giants.
We need to put to rest the primetime Kurt, because he wore that for a while, but what has he won, like 4 of his last 5?
No, it's Daniel Jones. Give him the crown.
He's got the crown all the time. He's 1-15 under the lights.
Yeah.
That's unwatchable.
Yeah.
And you can't just say, well, it's the line. Well, it's the coaching. Sometimes it might be you.
Yeah, or he'll just miss, like the game-sealing interception. He just missed. He's just inaccurate and just missed. Like, you're not good. You're just not good. So, yeah, the Giants are going to have problems. I knew that the Giants were going to have problems before the season even started. I didn't like how Hard Knocks did the Giants during the offseason. They gave off the impression of dysfunction, and we're seeing it kind of unfold this season. I think my bold prediction before the season was that they would be picking first. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I don't think it's a stretch to believe that they're going to be cleaning house this offseason.
They should be cleaning house right now. Like, teams, when we first started doing this show 8 years ago, Danger, when the NFL trade deadline came, it was always a joke annually. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, like anything would happen in the NFL trade deadline.
Oh, it's fun now.
It's awesome now. Like, teams that are out of it can recognize the draft means more than it ever has. Teams are recognizing, hey, we can get some cap relief by moving off of guys right now. We had Deontay Johnson move to Baltimore today. Is that a Francesa danger?
For me, it is. I know that there's a lot of people who Francesa, by the way.
Oh, who cares?
Something that just doesn't move the needle. The Deontay Johnson's problem that I've always had with him is he just doesn't hold on to football. I mean, he might be skilled and talented and a good route runner, but just from his time in Pittsburgh, time and time again, it's like the guy just can't hold on to the football. And the Steelers, I'm not saying the Steelers are infallible, that every team should do things the way the Steelers do things, because the Steelers have made mistakes, and they will continue to make mistakes, and they kind of play up or down to the level of their competition. But I do believe them when they let a player walk, that there's a reason why they're letting that player walk. And Deontay Johnson just couldn't hold on to the football. And it sounds as if Carolina couldn't get rid of him quick enough.
Well, he's in the final year of his contract, and for Carolina, you should be selling parts. But, I mean, my gosh, when you hear the return for this, like, really? It's a 5th for a 6th. That's it. You moved up 1 round.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. They couldn't wait to get rid of him, apparently.
And to your other NFL headline from today, there's a couple of them. Joe Flacco getting the start at quarterback this Sunday for the Colts, with Anthony Richardson hitting the pine. Head coach Shane Steichen sending him to the bench. 44.4% of his passes this season, 958 yards, 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Running the ball, 242 yards, 1 touchdown, but he's fumbled at a league high 6 times. And if you're Shane Steichen, I think you recognize this isn't what I was looking for. It had the makings of what I was looking for, but it just isn't what I was looking for. What was he looking for? He was looking for the success he had in Philadelphia when Jalen Hurts was his quarterback. When Jalen Hurts was Shane Steichen's quarterback and he was the OC in Philadelphia, Hurts could run the ball effectively and not get injured and not tap out and not fumble the football. And Anthony Richardson has gotten hurt when he runs. Anthony Richardson has fumbled the ball when he runs. And I think the biggest error in Richardson's way was tapping out last week. That's not going to go over well in your locker room with the fan base around the league. This isn't Section 5. you're the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts.
Name me a Section 5 quarterback that taps out.
Nobody taps out.
Nobody taps
You
out.
might rotate guys in because of a package here or a play here or a play there, but who's tapping out?
Oh, by the way, does not the quarterback have the communication with the head coach? You can also say, hey, I need a breather here. Handoff. It was like 3rd and 23. Didn't even give him that opportunity. It was surprising. Again, I feel like we have to give the vernacular here every once in a while for newcomers to the show.
We don't want to be inside jokes all the time.
No, because just like when you're with a group of friends, you just kind of land on things. And one of the things we landed on a few years ago is we're getting close to the season when you're watching your favorite NFL game, and they're going to put up the graphic. Here are your division leaders. Here are your wild cards. And here's who's in the hunt. Like, in the hunt. We got to come up with a better phrase.
No, in the sports bar, it's different.
Here in the sports bar, we say farting around.
Yeah.
Like my dad would say, or your dad would have said, quit farting around. Get going.
Yeah.
And the Indianapolis Colts right now, Danger, they're farting around.
Yeah.
They're 4-4.
I know.
Win a few games. Hey, you can be a wild card in the AFC. You have Joe Flacco. Now, we brought this up yesterday because, well, we got the Bills playing Miami this week, but we are already looking ahead, right? And to me, the Colt game always had this sense of danger, no pun, that you're a physical team you're playing. The Bills sometimes have trouble. Certainly they did last time when the Colts came up here for the regular season game. With Richardson, my gosh, this feels like a game I could see Buffalo losing. Well, now it's not, unless something changes here in this one game coming up here. Joe Flacco against the Bills in less than 2 weeks, Danger. Ooh.
Yeah, I think your secondary needs to mind their P's and Q's, but I think your pass rush can get to Joe Flacco. I mean, he's a statue. He's not going to be mobile. And if you have anything, if Shane Steichen has anything in Joe Flacco, you have a veteran who probably has a better grasp of your offense, but you're limited in what you can do in that offense because part of that offense is your ability to run the football with your quarterback, which Joe Flacco is not going to be able to do. So you have to modify a little bit if you're Shane Steichen. And like we said yesterday, I mean, the stats on Richardson are ugly. And I know some people will be like, oh, he doesn't have enough time. He hasn't had enough time. He didn't throw enough in college. He doesn't have enough. I've seen enough. I've seen the body of work is large enough for me. The sample size is large enough for me. And I'm ready to say he's not the dude. And when I say that, I mean, you want a guy who unquestionably is your quarterback. And when you look around the league, you can start to see, in a shorter amount of time than they've given Anthony Richardson, who the dude is going to be. Clearly in Washington, Jaden Daniels is the dude. We knew about C.J. Stroud immediately. He's the dude. You could say that with the Bills, Josh Allen, we knew pretty early on in his career, oh no, he's the dude. We might not get the wins, but we know he's the dude. And Daniel Jones, not the dude, right? Like you just know because it goes beyond stats. It's just an aura, a presence, an ability. And if they don't have it, do you think the wide receivers of the Colts, these are some good wide receivers. Pittman, Downs, A.D. Mitchell. You think these guys are going to be satisfied with a guy who can't get them the ball? I don't care how athletic he is. If you can't get him the ball, they're not interested in him. They're not running through a wall for that guy. He's not the dude.
Our buddy, Ryan Hickey, who you hear producing sometimes with the JT Sport Brief, JR Sport Brief. Ryan also hosts the Sunday night show on Infinity.
Hot take Hickey.
Yeah. Tweeting out this. Start of Anthony Richardson's career looks a lot like Josh Allen. First 10 games. I'm like, stop. Yeah, that's just number play there. Boy, we should put Hickey on. It would have looked good, Josh Allen as a Chicago Bear, right?
Right.
His
whole take was that the Bears should trade the number 1 overall pick to the Bills for Josh Allen. Right?
Yeah.
I think it worked out for everybody involved.
I love that move for the Colts because you normally don't see something that bold. It's a bold move for Indy. And maybe it works. Maybe it blows up in the face. Maybe they just recognize, hey, Richardson, take a few weeks off. And quite likely, Danger, in part because Joe Flacco is old, like you'll see Richardson before the end.
Well, you're like you mentioned, they're farting around, and you have a chance. Who gives you the best chance to win football games on Sunday right now? It's Flacco. There's no question that it's Flacco. When you've got a guy who can't stay on the field, when you've got a guy who's careless with the football or inaccurate, Joe Flacco gives you the best chance to win. The Browns should have started Jameis Winston weeks ago. It shouldn't have been an injury that forced Jameis Winston in the lines. He gives you the better chance to win. Now, it's too late for the Browns, but it's not too late for the Colts. So, yeah, this move is bold. And as far as the Giants go, hey, look, they're already saying, now Daniel Jones is starting. He's our starter. He's like, doesn't matter because it's not like Drew Lock is going to go in there and be that much better. You don't have somebody waiting in the wings. You could say, well, it's not going to get any worse. I'm like, yeah. I guess be careful what you wish for if that's what you're thinking. And their season is essentially over as well. So, the other bit of news today, and we had a couple bits of news today from former Buffalo Bills. The big one is Steph Diggs with his season ending here as the Texans wide receiver is torn ACL in that game against the Colts on Sunday. So the Texans now and the aforementioned C.J. Stroud without his top two weapons in the passing game. Nico Collins still on IR with the hamstring injury that he suffered back in Week 5 against the Bills, and now Steph Diggs out with that torn ACL. Tank Dell, really the top option now in the Texans offense.
You're Steph Diggs, and you're going to be 31 entering free agency, and you're not going to be healthy in time in order to do anything of significance during the spring workouts. Maybe you'll be ready by training camp. That was a guy that wanted out of Buffalo so bad that in order to make this kind of work, all right, we're going to rip up the deal. The Texans were okay with it. So the Texans, it was kind of an all-in move to give up a second-round pick. I mean, granted, it's a pick swap. They'll be getting a fifth from Buffalo. But, yeah, it's all of a sudden worked out in Buffalo's favor. And for Steph Diggs, millions.
Yeah.
Millions you cost. So I'm not wishing ill will. It's just
no, it's the cruelty of the NFL. It really is the cruelty of the NFL. And I don't know what's next for Steph Diggs, if anything is next for Steph Diggs. And I would hope that we as fans of not just the Bills, but also just NFL fans will remember Steph Diggs for what he was during his time in Buffalo. What he was during his time in Buffalo is one of the best receivers in Bills history. That's how I will remember Stephon Diggs. I'm not going to remember the dramatics, the theater, everything that went with the Stephon Diggs experience. We don't know everything what happened behind the scenes. And in a lot of instances, if you believe some of what you hear, Diggs maybe had a reason to be upset on more than one occasion for the way things were handled.
That's true, but professionally, not the way to handle it.
He is who he is, right?
And the Bills managed that the best they could. I'm not going to wave my finger at this, but you're going to now get to free agency where that would have been an interesting name, Steph Diggs going to Dallas, Kansas City, where I always thought he would end up in Kansas City and chase a ring in that regard. And now I don't know who will be taking him in.
But if you want to talk about the cruelty of the NFL and how quickly we as fans can turn the page on a player, this one actually floored me. And I didn't realize this because I haven't been paying very close attention to this team. I didn't realize that Trey White had been inactive the past 3 weeks for the LA Rams.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that because I haven't been paying attention to what the Rams are doing. I remember seeing Trey White earlier the year getting torched, and I'm like, ooh, Trey White's struggling in that Rams defense. And they make him inactive, and now they've given him permission to seek a trade. They're open to the idea of trading a player that they picked up in free agency. And I just think to myself, it doesn't feel that long ago that he was just a beloved figure within the Bills community. I mean, the Trey White Goalie Academy and the personality, and everybody loved Trey White, and our heart broke for him when he tore his ACL, and we knew when he hurt himself last year, it was like, oh, he's probably done as a Buffalo Bill. That is going to be a tough one to come back from, and it has been a tough one to come back from.
I always thought, though, Danger, he would come back and like, hey, I'm going to be in a reserve role. I'm going to, retire as a Buffalo Bill, but I don't think there's anything that leads you to believe he's in a good spot right now. And whenever the team tells you, hey, go look for a trade,
we're open to it.
Yeah, that's because there is no trade to be had.
Yeah.
Like, you go out there and you look for yourself. If I may, on the World Series,
yes,
pitch to Shohei Ohtani. Watching Clark Schmidt nibble 4 straight balls, then just intentionally walk him if you're going to do that. He has one arm right now. To his credit, he's out there, but that is not Shohei Ohtani.
He's not really hiding it either. Like when he's not swinging the bat, you can tell he'd be wearing a sling if it wasn't for him carrying a bat. He wants to be in a sling. That thing is not right.
To the point where you're wondering, is this guy going to be ready for next season? He's not going to come out of the lineup, and the Dodgers are going to afford him that opportunity. But to walk Shohei on 4 pitches and not kind of recognize, hey, let's go after him. And then 2 batters later, there's Freddie Freeman. By the way, Freddie Freeman has already accepted the MVP.
No question.
World Series MVP award here.
Hey, look, and Freddie Freeman, for everything he went through this season with his personal issues, his son being ill, everything, the guy's a winner and deserving, and he's been an absolute killer in the World Series, obviously. I know when we have Matt Perino joining us next, Matt Perino, who covers the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post, StandardSyracuse.com, we can ask him about this because this was the debate last night. It's the Stanton debate. Like, do you send Stanton there with 2 outs, or do you hold him at third and live to see another batter? Stanton can't run, but you got nothing going on, and you're trying to get something going, and it was a really good defensive play, and the Dodgers just seem to be doing everything better than the Yankees, defensively, offensively. I know Perino has some thoughts on it.
I didn't even think it was close. When he oh no, you don't do this, and sure enough, it was one of those. Don't do it. The Yankees right now are pressing. Can they be professionals and at least get this? What happened with the Red Sox danger was they at least got to the 9th inning. Dave Roberts steals the base, and okay, phew, we got out of that one. All right. Can they just find a way tonight? Nobody wants to see a sweep unless you're a Dodger fan.
Well, I mean, what a letdown. What an absolute letdown.
What a letdown, because this was supposed to be the time where, wow, here are the 2 stars. And I'm going to point to the guy that is going to get criticized. Aaron Judge, stop trying to pull every single ball. Every pitcher that goes out in this parade of relievers tonight, they're just going to pitch him down and away. Yeah. He's going to bite.
Joining us later on this afternoon in the Sports Bar, we should mention Michael F. Florio, NFL Network. He'll be by right around 4:45. We'll talk some fantasy football. It's waiver wire day in your fantasy football league. So who are you targeting? Who should you target? Michael F. Florio will give us some clarity on that coming up before happy hour at 5 o'clock. We'll also be joined later on in the 4 o'clock hour by Amerks head coach Mike Leone, fresh off of a 2-game home-and-home sweep against the Cleveland Monsters. We'll get the latest on the Rochester Americans from head coach Mike Leone coming up at 4:25, and as I mentioned, joining us next to talk more Buffalo Bills, Matt Perino covering the Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. You can read his work at Syracuse.com. Stopping by in the Sports Bar on the way next. You can join us online at the Fan Rochester on X and over the phone anytime. Our lines are open at 585-866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
Sports Update.
NFL headlines from today, and it's not good news for Texans wide receiver Stephon Diggs. Diggs is out for the year. He has a torn ACL. The Ravens trading for wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Johnson gets a pick swap with Carolina in the trade. The Colts announcing they'll start Joe Flacco at quarterback, benching Anthony Richardson. Sean McDermott on Tua Tagovailoa.
Number one, glad he's okay. That was scary to watch. Number two, it appears obviously that he's back and playing at a high level. So they're a good team, a good offense, and we're going to have our work cut out for us this week here.
Matt Perino, the Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast, joining us next year in the Sports Bar. Game 4 of the World Series tonight. The Yankees need a win to stay alive. Dodgers going with a bullpen game. The Yankees starting Luis Gil. Gene Battaglia and the Sports Leader, the Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Every Tuesday at this time, we talk Buffalo Bills with our buddy Matt Perino covering the team for the Syracuse Post-Standard. You can read his work at syracuse.com. Don't forget about the Shout podcast. But, Matt, on a day where, the Bills win easily in Seattle, you have a 2-win Miami team coming in to Orchard Park on Sunday. Can we start with an answer, your take on the great debate of whether or not to send Stanton home to give him the green light there with 2 outs? What are your thoughts?
Egregious decision making, and that is coming from somebody that spent the last 5 seasons at third base sending 7, 8, and 9-year-olds home with reckless abandon. Okay, that's coming from me. This guy who he throws caution to the wind at every turn. I would never have done that because I think I tweeted it. You see Stanton trying to leg out that double, and he almost gets thrown out at second base. I know you're trying to make something happen. I get that. But you have to know the moment. Like, first of all, you're down a couple of runs. You give yourself another opportunity with a couple guys now on base. Put a little bit more pressure on them. Let the pressure mount a little bit and see how they handle it. You're not putting pressure on. You're not going to have another shot like that the rest of the game probably. So I hated that idea.
Yeah, I am 100% on that, Matt, and I just what a letdown. You're a baseball guy. For folks who may not know, it's your cousin Andy Perino, the former Padre, Brockport. Yeah, that's Matt Perino. This is so disappointing because this is an opportunity, whether you're a Yankee fan or Dodger fan or not, you can recognize what this World Series could have been had we seen 2 teams at the top of their game. Well, one is at least at the top of their game.
That's the kind of crazy part about this is, like, I know there's a lot of heat on Aaron Boone, like, all season long. I mean, throughout his tenure. Like, this feels like a team that just it's the little things that's holding them back, like in these big moments. And to me, you got to point at coaching a little bit on that. Like, I don't know if there's been an emphasis on it, just like little mistakes in the field here and there. Like, the 2 big pitches to Freddie in this series have been horrible mistakes by the pitcher, just placement, like little details, being a little bit too dialed up or, just going to Nestor in that spot in game 1. We could be talking about a 2-1 series here if he goes to Hill in that spot, which I think it's crazy that he didn't. It's a bummer, and obviously I'm a Yankees fan, so I would like this to be a different series. But I got to be honest with you guys, like I'm all about the stories, and to me, Freddie Freeman, as a dad, watching that clip of him and his dad after the home run, it's like, man, how do you not just absolutely love that? That's the Dodgers have been a cool team to watch. Like I like Mookie Betts, I like Freeman, I love Shohei, so. Whatever happens, you'd like a little bit more fight from the Yankees, but the Dodgers are just an absolute unit right now.
Matt, be our ears and eyes of the weekend that you just got back from. I mean, Seattle felt like Buffalo West and Bills Mafia represented in a way I don't think we've seen in quite some time for a road trip. But you were there. You took in all the sights and all the sounds and probably all the smells of Seattle. Paint a picture for us, pal. How was your weekend in the Pacific Northwest?
It was wonderful. It smelled pretty fishy, to be honest with you. I was down at the Pike Place Market and watching them, as they iconically do, throw the fish around a little bit. There was actually a Bills fan there that you kind of got to wait for. I guess back in the day, they used to just be throwing fish around all day long, but now, like, you got to wait till somebody buys one. And so we're sitting there waiting for a while because I kind of wanted to see what the hype was about. And one of the Bills fans bought one. And so they did the whole thing and they let her catch it. And I shared it on social media. It was cool, like walking around that area of town. I mean, it was just a sea of red, white, and blue, as it tends to be on these road trips. I tell people most road trips, if there's a condensed area of the city where people kind of congregate, you'll tend to see a bunch of Josh Allen and Bills jerseys just walking around. But on the scene, to have Sean McDermott and Josh Allen react the way that they did, two guys that have been in this setting now for 7 and 8 years and have seen all the great turnouts by Bills fans over the years, for them to react that much to it in the moment kind of tells the story of how unbelievable it was. Because that 12th man, we were talking about it all last week. Like, what's it going to be like to go on the road in that environment? And at times, it didn't feel like you were playing a road game,
right,
if you're the Bills.
That's something, right? It's a testament to the Bills mafia. Matt, there are positives to come out of that. One, I'd like to talk about your thoughts here on Keon Coleman as we're at the midway point here of his rookie season. And every week I come away a little more impressed here, and what exactly maybe having Amari Cooper on the other side has helped for that young receiver.
100%. And it's funny because we talk a lot about Brandon Beane learning from past experiences. You know, one of the things that, you know, if you give him the time rewind button, he always talks about going back and getting somebody to help lead Josh Allen as a rookie, right? Like, you know, he went out and they got Derek Anderson halfway through that season and you saw the shift. He said he wished he would have gotten somebody for him sooner. And I think what they ended up realizing here is that they go out and they get Keon Coleman. They like a lot of things about him. Of course, there's some veterans in his room, but there's not really any veterans that have been where they want Keon Coleman to go. And so I think when you go out and you trade for Amari Cooper, who can kind of come in here, bring all of that experience, the 5 Pro Bowls, the fact that everybody talks about him as a route runner, somebody that could be a guide for this young player and take some of the pressure off. Like, that's another part of this is like, I think Keon Coleman needed Amari Cooper just from the perspective of now defenses can't key on him. Like, when he's out there with Mac Hollins, the defense is shifting all of their focus over to zero. Now with Amari Cooper there and the fact that you get to kind of spin the wheel a little bit more in terms of who you are as a passing game, I think that unlocks him quite a bit. And it's his swagger now that I've seen over the last 2 weeks take a huge jump. He's always been super confident. It's kind of, he's got this quiet confidence to him. But with Cooper arriving, like, it's felt like you're seeing the true Keon now in ways that, you know, I'm not sitting here saying that Amari Cooper has somehow unlocked this in 2 weeks' time, but the pressure coming off and him now getting to say, okay, I can go out every game and the weight of the world or the weight of this passing game isn't necessarily on my back. We have Amari Cooper. I can just kind of go out there and play free, and that's what he looks like. I mean, the way he bulldozed the cornerback 29 on that one play, I mean, that's going to play in highlight reels all season long. And then, mossing Tyreek Woolen, which I think is something that will also be in the reel.
So, Matt, I don't like that my mind goes to this place after a player has a good game or a string of good games, and I guess it's a first world problem. But after James Cook has the kind of performance that he has again on Sunday against Seattle, and he's had these games throughout the course of this season, James Cook at his position is quickly emerging as a star, if not one of the biggest stars at the running back position. And I look ahead to what decisions the Bills are going to have to make around James Cook. And it's nothing imminent. They don't have to do anything right away. But I'm curious, do you get the sense that Cook is somebody that the Bills will shift their philosophy on and actually pay at that position? Or do you think Cook down the road, and there's so much that can happen, it's so many variables, so I'm not asking you, hey, where's Cook going to be 3 years from now? Nobody knows. But do you think he's done enough with the Bills where they would actually consider breaking the bank at that position?
If you would have asked me this question 6 weeks ago, you probably would have gotten a different answer. But I think what we're seeing now in the NFL is a shift quietly back towards the importance of the running back position. And I think James Cook right now is sitting there watching the Ravens and the Eagles and is absolutely beside himself with excitement because their production and the way they've changed those two offenses, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry I'm talking about, I think is going to change the dynamic of how teams value these elite running backs. And make no mistake about it, James Cook is healthy. He's a top 5 elite running back in this league. He's second in the league in touchdowns now at 7 rushing touchdowns this season. We know already what he means to the passing game. So if you're the Bills and you're thinking about the valuation of going out and paying a top-tier wide receiver, which could get you into the 20s, high 20s per season if you're getting an elite guy. And, of course, you could draft somebody. I get that. Or spending your money at the running back position where you could probably get into the mid to high teens on a yearly deal if you get this thing done early enough. And you know the value of James Cook to your offense with Aaron Cromer in place and Joe Brady, who has obviously put a lot of emphasis on the run game. I don't think it's a crazy idea that the Bills value that, what he brings in terms of the versatility and the skill set, and he looks like the real deal. But again, Ray Davis, didn't he feel like a lot in March? Like this is a play for the future so that in 2 years when James Cook comes up, we're not hamstrung into having to pay him. But at the same time now, this could be the identity of their offense. The way that these two guys any given week can really put a defense in a bind. And they're going to continue to add to the wide receiving core likely in the draft. I'm surprised they didn't get more aggressive with it after they got Keon and adding another guy in the draft. But I think they're going to start doing that year after year. So I've shifted. I was no way Cook is going to get another deal in Buffalo to I think it's very possible.
Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard Shout podcast, our guest. Matt, next Tuesday night, in the real world, you're going to have all this, we're the so-and-so network, and we are going to call this race for this political candidate. Here in the sports bar, we're going to call the race in the AFC for the East for the Buffalo Bills. It's over. It's done. We're calling it at this point. Where do you think the Bills sit big picture right now in the AFC? Because you see Baltimore taking a little half step back there. They're not even leading their division anymore. So could the Bills be a 2 or 3? Could actually they make a run at Kansas City here knowing they've got that head-to-head coming up?
I think they definitely could take a run at Kansas City. I put out those three teams' remaining schedule, and I asked Bills fans who has the easiest, and I think the majority of people think it's the Chiefs. So, it wouldn't surprise me if they end up with the 1 seed. They're sitting there at 7-0, but I still think that there's a couple of tough division games for Kansas City that they tend to lose every season. And listen, when you start undefeated the way that they have, the games get considerably harder. I think the Bills can, make a bit of a statement if they go on a little bit of a run here into that Chiefs game and then they knock off the Chiefs at home. And, maybe that's their first or second loss. Then you can kind of, maybe play that momentum game a little bit. I think the Bills have proven no matter where they go or play. I mean, they're, a couple plays away from winning that game in Houston, and you could be talking about a 7-1 team right now going into a very manageable stretch. I agree with you. I'm calling the division for the Bills as well, but I do think the Miami Dolphins have a chance there's a chance they can get a little hot here over the next couple of weeks. And I think that their season's on the line. Not only the division, chances for the division. I mean, they lose another game, and now you're starting to put them in the Jets category of, are these coaches going to make it through the season? So I think we're going to see a very big time effort from the Dolphins. I think that it'll be enough. Who knows? The Bills have absolutely owned this rivalry when they've been at their best, when they've been fully healthy. But as an aside, we see this the last couple days. The Los Angeles Rams are allowing Tre'Davious White to seek a trade.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs, unfortunately, goes down in Houston. Jordan Poyer has been one of the worst safeties in the NFL this season. I know a lot of people think the Micah Hyde thing is something they're clinging to for later this season. I don't know how much that is a real thing. I really do. That's not any reporting. It's just reading the tea leaves kind of thing. I think they like the group that they have in their building, and I think they like DeMar Hamlin so much, and that's why Mike Edwards hasn't been on the field. And I know a lot of Bills fans are like, man, why do you go out and sign Mike Edwards if you don't even give him a chance? And it's I think they wanted to develop some continuity between the guy that earned the starting job, Hamlin, and Taylor Rapp. And I think week after week, we're seeing them be a little bit better as a combo. We're seeing Taylor Rapp really ascend to one of the leaders of that defense. And I think the big picture storyline is here, Brandon Beane really was a visionary in the way that he kind of retooled this entire roster. I know everybody called it a transition, but a lot of it was addition by subtraction, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit crazy to think how much dead cap they are carrying, and yet they still have enough talent there on the field. And I think the continuity is a big piece of that. You bring it up, Matt. And I want to talk about another thing you just brought up regarding Sunday and regarding the Dolphins. And we'll talk a little bit about whether or not the Bills are done here before the trade deadline a week from today. But the opponent on Sunday, you mentioned a desperate Dolphins team, and they're going to need a win. But hasn't that been the case for the last couple of weeks? And I know that Tua wasn't there. But if you're a professional, and I know everybody will say, well, they're professionals. They're going to come in and they're going to be motivated to do their best. I don't know that I see Mike McDaniel as a guy anymore that has that locker room under his control, that has guys that are going to run through a wall for him, or that they view Tua as this threat in the offense, somebody that can unlock this next level. When you look around the NFL and you see a guy like LaFleur in Green Bay do what he did while Jordan Love was out with Malik Willis, if you are a professional and you take note of that, you're wondering, well, why are we losing games the way we're losing games to bad teams if we're the Miami Dolphins? I have zero faith that the Dolphins are going to come into Orchard Park and make it a game on Sunday against the Bills, and maybe I'm naive for that.
No, I don't think you're naive. I think those are all really great points. I'm more just saying that the Bills aren't going to take them lightly and expect a pushover because they've been a team that, even with Tua, hasn't lived up to the expectations I think a lot of people had for them. But I'm in line with everything that you just said there. And if you look at last week's game, and you're going up against the Arizona Cardinals team, 307, 2 touchdowns for Kyler Murray. That makes sense, right? James Conner only averaged 2.7 a carry, but had a couple big runs in that game. It was more so, to me, the lack of ability for them to separate offensively that stuck out. And I'm wondering if coming in here, Buffalo is going to be – Highmark Stadium is going to be absolutely rocking. And if you think about it, it's got to be in the back of Tua Tagovailoa's head. 2 of the last 3 times he's been knocked out of a game has been against the Buffalo Bills. And this is a defensive front now. We'll see about Terrell Bernard. It'll help if they can get him back. Sean McDermott's been a little bit iffy on that when he spoke after the game yesterday. So we'll track that over the course of the game. But this is a Bills front, especially Greg Rousseau. And now you add Von Miller back to that mix. Ed Oliver is looking healthier by the week. I think that Tua could potentially be under siege on Sunday, and that is not a good recipe for the Miami Dolphins.
Matt, you can't ask the Bills players or McDermott or anybody about this, but we can certainly talk here in this format. The Colts the week after here, and Danger and I were trying to come up with an instance. I don't ever recall a quarterback tapping out and saying, I need a breather, and maybe that was a factor, but certainly the stats don't lie. Anthony Richardson struggling. Is that a good thing that Joe Flacco is going in, or is this actually giving the Colts the best chance to win against Buffalo here in 2 weeks? The Colts, by the way, are on Sunday Night Football against the Vikings this week.
I mean, I get it from a coach's perspective why Steichen's making this decision, and I've seen a lot of discourse on social media over the last couple hours about, all right, well, what do you say? How do you keep Anthony Richardson in there? And what do you say to the guys on the roster about, like, really, truly trying to win? And my one pushback to that would be, like, if any player came to me as Steichen or the GM sticking with Richardson, I'd show him Joe Flacco's stats from that playoff game last year. You're only going to go so far with that player. And don't get me wrong, he's been really good this season when he's played in Indianapolis. Like, I think that they can make a run at that division now, especially with what's going on in Houston. But I just think that when you spend a top 5 draft pick on a player, that's an investment that you have to make, and you have to see it through. I mean, does he even have 16 full starts yet? I don't think he does, because he went out last
10.
season.
He's got 10.
10. That's crazy. That's crazy to sit there and think in an AFC with the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens that you're competing with a Super Bowl for Joe Flacco. To me, is just, it misses the mark, and you're going to end up basically sacrifice, or you have as an organization have made the decision after 10 games that Anthony Richardson isn't it. And in that case, I'd look to move him before the deadline. Fine, do that. try to get a draft pick back and then start planning for the future and go all in on Joe Flacco this year, which maybe Cleveland should have kept Joe Flacco around last year. I mean, Jameis Winston looked pretty good last week. But it's an interesting situation, and I think the timeline for quarterbacks is shorter now than it ever was before. And I don't know if a Josh Allen, and I know he's a unicorn, he's a 101 example, but he doesn't develop the way that he developed if they had the same lack of patience, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, back in 2019 and 2018.
I think to myself, and I look back at that, and I want to ask you if you think the Bills are done here before the trade deadline, before we run out of our time together with you. But I feel like with Richardson and just with the NFL in general, you just know if you've got the dude. And even though it took Josh Allen some time and statistically it wasn't there right away for him, I think we all knew within the first 6-7 games that Josh Allen was going to be the dude. They certainly know that they have their guy in Washington. Chicago feels pretty good. Denver feels pretty good about the choices that they've made. Where you look at the flip side, if you hang on or you say, we think he's the dude, we kind of think Daniel Jones could be the guy or Anthony Richardson could be the guy. No, next thing you know, you're stuck paying a guy $40 million a year and he sucks. I get what you're saying about the lack of patience, but I also think that if we were there, we would probably recognize what everybody in that locker room already recognizes, and that is Anthony Richardson is just not the dude for Indianapolis.
Yeah, but then you have to have, to me, I agree with everything you just said there. And I think the problem now as an organization becomes, do we have the people in place that we trust to evaluate these players? Because it's such a misstep. At 4 overall, to me, I'd have heads rolling along with it. If you're done and you're looking to move off of Anthony Richardson, I think I'd want to move off of that general manager who, by the way, it's been retread after retread under Ballard, right? Like Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan. Now they went and they drafted a quarterback, and it's one of the biggest misses in recent history. And now you're on Joe Flacco. It's been kind of an unbelievable run. And listen, you can't fix it just by keeping Flacco and doing these retreads year after year. You're going to have to find somebody that can evaluate that position. So that's another big conversation that I think is going to be happening over the next couple of months in Indianapolis.
Matt, real quick, trade deadline next Tuesday. What do we expect here? I'm sure the Bills are talking to people, but what are you hearing here? What might we expect?
Yeah, I think going out and getting a defensive tackle makes the most sense. You've seen, them get real banged up at that spot. And when you're talking about a wrist injury with Dwayne Carter, now you're starting to wonder, okay, he's on IR. Maybe he can get back in 4 weeks. Maybe it extends to 5, 6, or 7. But either way, do you feel comfortable if an Ed Oliver gets hurt or Daquan Jones? You do not have enough depth at that spot right now. So if you got to carve out another spot somehow by going out and getting a defensive tackle that you can kind of add in the mix. And listen, that's at the same time admitting that Austin Johnson has taken a little bit of a jump in the last couple of weeks. You could see him starting to get comfortable in the scheme, what they're asking him to do. He kind of plays a little bit of both, the 1 technique and the 3 technique. I know he had the interception. I thought his get-off in the 3rd and 4th quarter was noteworthy. Like I had to do a double take and see if that was 91 or 98. He was flying off the ball against the Seahawks. So that's a huge deal. If he's gonna become a dude in their second level or their second part of their rotation, that's huge. But I think you want to add numbers just to guard against the chance of injury, and that's what the Ravens did today by going out and getting Deontay Johnson. I think that they're guarding against the Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, any of those guys getting banged up, and now they have more numbers to kind of throw at you. I think the Bills have to do that at their defensive line spot. There's a couple of edge rushers out there as well, but I think they're a little bit deeper there. So we'll see. I know a lot of people want safety, but I think they like their safeties. And I guess the Micah Hyde softball or layup is always there if you need it.
Matt, what do you got on tap here at Syracuse.com and this week on the Shout podcast?
Yeah, we got a show tomorrow. The Staples Show. We'll have the preview show later this week. I'm going to try to catch up and link up with Marcel Louis-Jacques at some point this week, but travel schedule and everything, I don't know if that's 100% yet. We'll have you covered at the site, everything going on. We'll have the Terrell Bernard watch, as I know a lot of Bills fans are hoping he gets back for the Dolphins game, and the usual.
Matt, appreciate the time, and you're absolutely right on the Yankees here. Thanks so much, Daddy.
Take care, boys.
You got it. There's Matt Perino covering the Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. Glad we had a little extra time there with him to kind of get through some stuff. I love our conversations with Matt so much, and it's weird. It's one of those weeks where there's not a lot to complain about right now with the Buffalo Bills, just given what we saw most recently. And man, I hope that doesn't change going into this weekend. I don't think it's going to. I can't give Miami any credit, even though they're a divisional opponent.
I love how Matt brought up the analogy because we said that. Like, you bring in Josh Allen, like, who's he talking to in the room? Nathan Peterman? No. Let's go get a Derek Anderson. The idea that Amari Cooper, okay, like somebody with some cachet. Certainly, Khalil Shakir's good, but he hasn't been in the league that long. That can help a Keon Coleman.
He's a star.
Yeah.
He's a star who's been in the league, who's been through adversity, who's been with a few teams, who handles himself a certain way. He's a professional. He handles himself a certain way. And you know, Coleman has that quiet confidence to him. And we saw it immediately when he was drafted by the Buffalo Bills. Maybe there is a little bit of that Amari Cooper that's rubbing off on Keon Coleman that's unlocking a next level of effort from the Bills' rookie wide receiver. Can't wait for Sunday. We'll have the action for you here on the Fan Rochester. Our pregame coverage gets underway at 9 a.m. Sunday morning, kickoff just after 1 o'clock on the Fan.
I know you were more focused on the Monday Night Football game. I was with the Yankee game last night from the get-go, and when I was watching this at the beginning, like, I was like, what am I watching? What is this? What? And then I go to social media, and my thoughts were confirmed by all Yankee fans. I have thoughts on this here and how that set a terrible tone last night. And, oh, look who wants to be the new head coach of the New York Jets. Yeah, okay, sure.
It's a rule that needs to be changed from last night's Monday Night Football game as well. I will explain, and we'll get to Amerks head coach Mike Leone, who joins us here in about a half an hour. Stay in the sports bar here on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
NFL news today, and it's not good down in Houston, where Texans wide receiver Stephon Diggs, he's out for the year. Diggs with a torn ACL. The Ravens trade for wide receiver Deontay Johnson. It's a pick swap with Carolina. And the Colts announcing they're going to start Joe Flacco against Minnesota coming up on Sunday night. At quarterback, benching Anthony Richardson. Meanwhile, the Bills getting ready for Miami. Dan Orlovsky on this Miami offense.
It's still an offense that's very explosive. Buffalo knows they play it usually relatively well, but don't think that Tua's just coming back. It's going to take time for them to get used to each other again. Like they were humming this weekend.
NFL Network's Michael F. Florio to join us later this hour. We'll talk some fantasy football. It's Game 4 of the World Series tonight. The Yankees need a win to stay alive. Luis Gil starting against some member of the Dodgers bullpen. Gene Battaglia, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Buffalo's just been so dominant against Miami that I don't see how they can come into Buffalo and win this game.
I'm feeling really confident going into this week how the Bills have performed the last 2 weeks against bad teams. I'm expecting the Bills to take care of business and blow that team out and really probably end their season.
Mike Danger.
The Bills moved to 6-2, and yeah, we've been popping off all day. We've been popping off all day because you've got 4 more wins than your next opponent, the Miami Dolphins, coming up on Sunday. I have a hard time not seeing it be a blow. I mean, the way the Bills have always handled the Dolphins, and I know you're going to say, oh, be careful.
Gene Battaglia.
You beat the Dolphins. You're up 5, but then you have the head-to-head. You're up 6. They're gone. I don't think it's crazy to think that the game against the 49ers in December might clinch the division if you continue to win.
We are calling the AFC East for the Buffalo Bills.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Yeah, Buffalo Bills out here snatching souls, ending seasons. Love it. We're getting ready for the Dolphins coming up on Sunday here on The Fan Rochester. We're going to talk some Amherst hockey this hour. Head coach Michael Leone stops by the sports bar here in about 20 minutes. Some fantasy football before 5 o'clock as well with our buddy Michael F. Florio from NFL Network. Talk some fantasy football and waiver wire pickups coming up here before 5 o'clock as well.
I think I'm in the mood to download some Italian music, Danger. Like, why do I have to wait for the sports bar on Monday, on a Victory Monday? Like, if on Sunday night, maybe I'm driving back from the game, just fire it up and I get home and fix myself a nice drink, just relax.
That's
and
right.
Listen to a little Bruno Martino.
Yeah, that's right. You just get your smoking jacket on, kick your feet up, pour a bottle of Brown and a glass of Brown, and maybe light up a Victory cigar. Just class it up a little bit. I mean, that's how we roll in the sports bar. Talking about snatching souls and ending seasons, I mean, this, for as hyped up as this World Series was, for all the potential that was there, these are the 2 best teams. These are the 2 biggest payrolls. Like the idea that we're potentially going to see a sweep, I'm kind of down on Major League Baseball right now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, the Dodgers are playing smart. When we talked to Matt Perino last hour, he's like talking about how the Yankees aren't doing the little things. And look, we'll point to Freddie Freeman in Game 1 and the decision for Nestor Cortes. How about this? And I said at the time, like, wait a second. Shohei moves from 2nd to 3rd. You're in the 8th inning. They're down by 1 because you overthrew the ball. Yeah. There wasn't anybody backing it up. So the Dodgers don't even send it to extra innings if that doesn't happen. But it's just one of many examples. But for all that went wrong in L.A., here you are. You could still hold your home field advantage, if you will. You're the Yankees. You're the Bronx. This should be your night.
Last night.
And they went out with Fat Joe? Danger, I'm not the music expert, okay? But I'm smart enough to know, really? Really? I know the one song, but that's supposed to fire everybody up. All the New York artists. That's the best you could come up with, Yankees? Like, and I love how he threw his mic down on the turf. Whoa, he means business. No, if you're the Yankees, you pull out all the stops. You have Jay-Z, J-Lo, Lady Gaga's from the city. Billy Joel would have hit it better. Okay, so maybe you couldn't have landed any of those big names. Maybe they had another commitment. Maybe they said no. Okay, they don't do it. Somebody's got to have hey, if L.A. rolls out Ice Cube, we can't be rolling out Fat Joe.
He's the Bronx, man. That's Fat Joe is the Bronx. Lady Gaga isn't firing up a fan base. J-Lo isn't firing up a fan base. Jay-Z could fire up a fan base, but Jay-Z doesn't have anything to promote. Fat Joe still has music that he needs to promote. He still needs to go out there. He still needs to hawk his wares.
That is not the Yankees' problem. The Yankees are bringing him in. Hey, do you want to fire up the crowd? What is Ice Cube promoting? What, like he's got a whole catalog of hits here. That
Ice
you can
Cube
go,
is all.
like, I really like Ice Cube. It's the same reason for the halftime show, Danger. Like the halftime show of the Super Bowl. Hey, wow, I really remember this artist. I like this artist. I will buy their music. Like anybody should have wanted that stage in New York.
Fat Joe is from the Bronx, and I think that's the biggest reason why. That, and of course, he has something to promote. So he found a way. They found a way to get him a little bit of mic time, a little bit of air time. He's got something to promote, and he happens to be from the Bronx. So this is his team. This is the deal. And yeah, could you have gotten Jay-Z? Maybe, but at what price? At what cost? And why? What exactly is Jay-Z going to do to fire up Yankee Stadium?
Are you kidding me? He comes out and he sings the new Sinatra anthem, apparently.
Yeah,
like
Empire State.
Yeah, he says Yankees right in there.
How about
like,
win a game, and then you could play it at the end of the game and have Jay-Z show up? I don't know. I am so, just from seeing the music industry and the inner workings and how it is all manufactured and scripted and manipulated and the politics behind all of it. Yeah, it's like, oh, Fat Joe. Yeah, of course Fat Joe's out there. He has a song that he needs to promote.
Okay, so was this actually Fox doing this? It's Fox's time. Hey, let's give 2 minutes here, and like
Did
we're gonna
somebody pay somebody at Fox to have Fat Joe on the field for a couple of minutes? Did Fat Joe's record company say, you know what, it's worth X amount of dollars to pay Fox to give Fat Joe just a little bit of camera time? He has music to promote after all. He's from the Bronx.
You mean that stuff actually goes on, Danger?
Of course. Yeah. That's exactly how one hand washes the other. So I get it. You can blame Fat Joe if you want. I mean, there's plenty of things happening actually during the game that I think are a little bit more impactful than who's there before the game or before the first pitch is even thrown. It's not really Fat Joe for me. It's more about the Dodgers being better at everything in this series than the Yankees have been. And maybe they can salvage a game tonight. We'll see. But largely, I'm just like, wow, this is sad for baseball.
I'm sorry. Tonight is a bullpen game, but let me ... Why not? If the Dodgers get a lead, you're going to see Yamamoto. You're going to see like everybody try to close this out and let's GTFO here.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen tonight.
So while many of you were fixed on the Yankee game, I was flipping back and forth between the Yankees and Dodgers and Monday Night Football. I'm always going to gravitate towards the NFL. That's just in my nature. And I know the matchup wasn't that sexy, but I do kind of still like watching games that are in Pittsburgh in primetime. There's something about Acrisure Stadium, formerly Heinz Field, that for whatever reason, it just prints well in prime time. And largely unexciting game. I mean, you see Brian Daboll blowing his top multiple times throughout the course of the first half, and I just keep telling myself this guy's not going to be there much longer, and I feel kind of bad for him. There was a play last night that was reversed. It was a touchdown that was reversed. George Pickens, he actually makes an unbelievable catch back of the end zone. He taps his foot inbounds twice. Same foot, taps it twice inbounds, but couldn't get both feet inbounds. And there's a movement happening right now where people are saying, hey, by rule, that actually could be a touchdown. Couple of notes on the rule. It doesn't say that the 2 feet have to be from different legs. He did get 2 feet inbounds. It was the same foot twice, but he did get 2 feet inbounds. It's a bad rule. It's inconsistent with the fact that you only need a shin or an elbow or a wrist or a butt cheek to be considered down. 1 + 1 is 2. I want to see them change this rule. I wanted that to be a touchdown last night. It was an unbelievable catch by Pickens.
So why don't, because you always want more offense, you want to open up the game and everything else. I mean, why not just make it 1? Like that was the way it was in college and high school and everything else, or we just don't want to copy that. The 2
Get
feet.
1 foot down.
I saw this too, and it's like, look, it's Hey, George, like that's cute. You got to get the other foot down there too. I mean, it was weird to see him tap one foot
The
twice.
way he contorted his body to make that catch, the way he kind of tried to keep his balance to stay in bounds. I mean, he deserves a touchdown there. He got 2 feet down. It was just the same foot twice. Change the rule.
So apparently, Danger, Rex Ryan is now campaigning Jets owner Woody Johnson for an interview.
Oh, great.
Can you imagine that? Stop managing it. Just stop, okay? I appreciate Peter and everybody else putting this out. As dysfunctional as the Jets are, there's no way they take that bait. And there's no way Rex is really for real on this. Rex is a showman. He's getting his name out. He's doing what the network wants him to do, and that's to stir the pot. If Rex was actually serious about coaching, guess what he'd be doing this year? Coaching. He would have gotten somewhere on as a defensive coordinator or as a line coach or something else. Rex is all mouth at this point. We just got to get to a point where we just ignore him.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a part of me that says, yeah, you're right. He is a showman. Yeah, you're right. He's all mouth. And then there's another part who's like, well, he maybe just doesn't want to be a defensive coordinator. But then I look back and I'm like, no, he would have taken D.C. in Dallas if not for Mike Zimmer. And he was kind of upset that Jerry Jones gave it to Mike Zimmer and not to him, that they can't afford him.
Well, that's his spin on
Yeah.
it. And then he loves, kicking him down. Or does it matter where you coach, or you just want to be with the big markets and the big flashy team? And
well, again, I wonder if he's saying, you know what, I'm over being a defensive coordinator. I'm a head coach, and that's really all I want. Or he sees something like the Jets and says, I know everything that I would do to fix that situation right now, or what I would do immediately to make that defense better. There's a part of me, it's a small part of me, there's a part of me that wants to see Rex Ryan back in the NFL.
Dude, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think we would all love to see that. I'm not saying I would, but it's not realistic at this point.
I don't know.
He's not real about it.
I don't know.
Okay, not realistic from any NFL owner saying, you know what, that's our guy. Yeah, no.
I don't know. There's some crazy NFL owners, man.
Okay.
They're all aliens.
Who give me an example of, in our business we call it on the beach. Hey, you haven't been doing anything while you've been on the beach. Rex has been on the beach. When did he get fired? 2017? 2017, he's been fired by the Buffalo Bills. Okay, so this will be year number 8. Dick Vermeil. Okay, Dick Vermeil, I think it was like 9 years, something ridiculous like that.
Mm-hmm.
Who else does television is going to come back close to a decade later? No, it's unprecedented. Rex is just going to run his mouth, and as long as shows like ours are going to give him a platform or people retweet it like, oh my gosh, Rex wants an interview. Sure, the Jet, if you're a Jet fan, that's how desperate you are.
Do it, you cowards. Johnson, you listening to me? Oh, get on the phone, set it up, and interview Rex Ryan. Do it, you cowards. It's like things could get worse. Are you kidding? Can things really get worse? Do it. Would you trade if I would trade Aaron Rodgers? What are you waiting for? You cowards. You have up until Tuesday to make something happen, get something of value, move on from that guy, trade Aaron Rodgers, interview Rex Ryan. How much worse can it possibly get? You just lost to Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots, for crying out loud. Do it, you cowards. Do it.
What was that stat where you held an opponent under 250 yards, you didn't turn the ball over, and there was some other qualifier in that?
Under 20 points.
Yeah.
You score more than 20 points.
756-0 teams were when.
Yeah, except for the Jets.
Except for the Jets.
On Sunday. Well done. Yeah, it's not going to get any worse. What are you waiting for? Move on. Move on from Rodgers. Bring in Rex. Have some fun. Let's get Rex back in the NFL. You know, for that WWE appeal, like a little bit of that trash talking, just to have him talk smack about other coaches. We want that kind of rivalry again.
Because I'm a degenerate, I will end up watching. But should I, Thursday night, Texans, Jets?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm just watching just to watch Aaron Rodgers fail. It's like he can't fail enough in my world.
That's right.
And part of me says that's not healthy. You shouldn't root for things like that.
I'm not rooting for injury.
No, certainly not.
But I'm rooting for him to suck. Yeah, I will watch just to see him miss wildly, not be able to move out of the pocket. Yeah, that's what I'm watching for. And we'll get great joy from it. That's coming up on Thursday. Let's shift gears and talk some Rochester Americans hockey. Fresh from a home-and-home sweep against the Cleveland Monsters, the Amerks are on fire. Mike Leone, their head coach, stopping by the sports bar next. He'll be in studio here on the Fan Rochester.
Sports Update.
Headlines from the NFL today. The news not good in Houston, where Stephon Diggs, former Buffalo Bill, he's out for the year. Diggs with a torn ACL. The Colts today announcing they're going to start Joe Flacco at quarterback, benching Anthony Richardson. The Colts on Sunday night will be taking on Minnesota. The Ravens trade for wide receiver Deontay Johnson. It's a pick swap with Carolina. Meanwhile, the Bills getting ready for the Dolphins. Sean McDermott on Tua Tagovailoa.
Number one, glad he's okay. That was scary to watch. Number two, it appears obviously that he's back and playing at a high level. So they're a good team, a good offense, and we're going to have our work cut out for us this week here.
Michael F. Florio joins us later this hour. We'll talk some fantasy. We'll talk hockey next. Mike Leone of the Hammocks joining us. Yankees Game 4, they need to win, taking on the Dodgers tonight. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, back in the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia. We welcome in Amerks head coach Mike Leone, fresh from a home-and-home sweep against Cleveland Monsters. That's got to be more like it for your team there, Coach. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's always better coming in here after a couple wins and losses, for sure.
Yeah, it's almost like we forgot. Like, wait a second. Cleveland actually won the division last year.
That's right.
And it's such a tight division, but these points, I'm pointing out something obvious, Mike, they mean as much now as they're going to mean to you in April.
Yeah, just how tight the division is, hearing about it, but then playing in the games, playing Utica, watching them play, playing Toronto, and then obviously Cleveland, a really talented group. The margin for error is really small, and those 4-point games are really big, and it was a really good week for our group.
Yeah, and Cleveland pushing you to the end there. Talk about getting the win in the shootout. I mean, this is our first shootout win of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, it was a crazy game. Just being in that environment, they had their banner raising night and home opener, so it was 15,000 people. So especially with our young group, I thought we did a really good job, especially in the first period. Handling they were going to push just from the game before. But it was awesome just to see our group stick with it. Got a little away from us in the second period, but just even after they scored, we responded right away with a face-off goal. And then the third period I thought was our best period. And a couple of really nice shootout moves, and House did a great job in that, making some key saves at the end of the game. So it was awesome to get the win.
Yeah, Hellenius, the kid, getting the one there. Michael, I'm going to give you my opinion. If you want to comment on it, you can, or you don't have to. But my opinion is I'm over the shootout. I just don't think – I think it was something coming out of the lockout years ago, and now it's like, really, we're going to use this as an extra point. It kind of skewers the standings. But as long as you have it, it is important to get that extra point. How much work do you guys do on a weekly basis when it comes to preparing for the shootout?
No, it's a really good point. I think about it a lot, too, just how valuable those points are in the shootout, obviously, for the fans. But honestly, we haven't practiced it much, to be honest with you. There's so many other parts of your game, especially early in the season, that you need to work on. I think it's more just trusting your skilled players to shoot. And even Yabo, he had a score that one to extend it. And with the crowd, and he did a great job. And then Hellenius, for an 18-year-old kid to, pull a move like that is pretty special. And it was just an unbelievable feeling to get the win.
What's your impression of Hellenius so far? Seeing him play here in North American soil, and knowing that he's so young, but there's a lot of expectation there.
Yeah, I think when you take back when you just look at it from 30,000 feet as an 18-year-old kid to play in the American Hockey League and to play minutes, I think he played, close to 21 minutes. It's a lot to ask for a young player, but he's done a really nice job. Sometimes you just, as a coach, you have to. There's mistakes that happen, especially in a young player's game, whether it's being on the right side of the puck, face-off detail. But those things are all teachable. But his gifts are his ability to make plays, his ability to understand the game and make players around him better is really unique, especially for a young player. And he's done a really good job. He had a chance in overtime on a breakaway to score. He probably could be pointing higher just if you look at his scoring chances throughout the season, but those will come over time. I think it's, I had a conversation with him today about, just playing the game the right way and not cheating for offense. Maybe when sometimes you're not getting points, I think because he's such a reliable player, I think that's why Buffalo drafted him in the spot that they did, because his play away from the puck and how responsible he is, and just making sure that he doesn't lose that.
Yeah, how much of the development of a young player that you're in charge of, like Ohelenius, is getting him to recognize that there's more than just the offensive part of the game. It's the two-way game that you need to play when you do make it up to that next level.
Yeah, I think it's invaluable. We talk about it a lot, to play winning hockey, and what does that look like? And I think it's a lot of it is you're being above pucks, supporting the puck, being really good in your own zone. I think just if a player were to get called up to Buffalo, what would Lindy ask of him? You want a responsible player that plays a 200-foot game in that a coach could trust, and I think it's instilling those things. I think they're natural. All of our young players, they're going to produce because they have natural gifts that you can't teach, and it's working on those things. But I think it's really important to build those traits that are, whether it's winning 50-50 pucks, trackings, your reloads to get above your guy, I think are really important at this level, and then going into the next level, because just the margin for error is so small.
We're talking with Amherst head coach Mike Leone. The team plays not one but two games in Utica this week. We'll talk about that. You're back home against Hartford the following week, which, that's a little ways off. We're letting folks know, and the next time they'll be able to go out to the Blue Cross Arena. Your leading scorer is Tyson Kozak. I love a story here that a guy's sticking with it. Is it just a matter of him being healthy, or how much of a factor is that, Coach?
I think that has I wasn't around Tyson for the 2 years, but just seeing him in training camp, obviously he had a little injury there. He didn't get to participate, but he, staying healthy is really important. I think he had a really big summer, and I think there's a track record of scoring at the junior level. I mean, he scored in the WHL close to 35 goals, so he has it in him, and we made a decision as a staff to put him up the lineup. Especially he's not on the power play, and just to give him more minutes, and I think he's earned that. And he has a unique way of impacting the game differently than other players. He's really good on the forecheck. He's got a really good stick. He disrupts a lot of plays. He goes to the hard areas where sometimes you got to almost force guys to get there. And if you look at the 4 goals he scored, it's probably, a combination of 3 feet. Like, it's right around the net, all of his goals. And he's a winning hockey player. He does a lot for our team, not just the points, but penalty killing, late game situations. And he's still a really young kid. He's only 21 years old, and I think there's a lot there. I think he has a chance to play for a long time and play at the highest level. He's off to a great start.
He's Amherst head coach Mike Leone joining us in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. Amherst's next home game a week from Friday at Blue Cross Arena against the Hartford Wolfpack. You touched on it a little bit, Mike, and how important his play was in the series against Cleveland. Talk a little bit about the goaltending and and the game that he had here.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I think he's he earned the opportunity to play 2 games this past weekend. I think he gives the guys a lot of confidence. He's a great teammate. He brings a lot of life to the room. He's a guy that I trust, and he's playing really good for us right now. I think if you look at his game, we're doing a really good job away from the puck. If you look at our underlining numbers, we're really defending well. I think we're giving up, around 23 to 25 shots a game is a recipe for success in the long run. And he's making timely saves. I think it's about making saves when they're needed the most, and really good goalies have a unique way of doing that. In the Cleveland game, we gave a couple chances before overtime, and he did a great job making big-time saves and did a great job in the shootout.
Yeah, Danger, this is year 5 for him in Rochester. That's unusual that you have that. Not only that, 13 years as a pro and still doing it. We were talking before you got on, the analogy here I'm going to draw, like how Keon Coleman, bright young talent, and the Bills bring in Amari Cooper, who's still very talented, but you're helping show the way. Do you, and goalie's a little bit of a different position, but are you leaning on Hauser with the other kids? Because certainly he still has it on the ice, but he can show the kids other things here about how to be a pro.
Yeah, no, he earned his 200th win in pro hockey, which is really hard to do. He's just a great person. He's an everyday guy. He does it right, the way he takes care of himself. But I just think I have a lot of conversations with him in meetings because I think he has a great feel of the team, and he's been around pro hockey a long time. He can probably tell you things other guys don't see just from his experience and how long he's played, and he's been a big part of our team so far this year.
We got Utica this weekend, 2 games on the road at the Comets, and it's not a team you're entirely unfamiliar with. You got to win earlier in the season from them. Tell us a little bit about your opponent and what we're expecting here this weekend.
Yeah, they're a really physical group. They make it really hard on you. They're big, they're heavy, they're in your face. They just got a player down who I coached at the national program, Seamus Casey, first-round pick, who, if you look at the last couple of games, he's completely changed their power play. He has 4 points in 2 games. They have another couple defensemen that are coming off the IR. So it'll be a different team than the look that we played the first time. But they're a really hard team to play against, and we got to make sure that the things we've been focusing on get into the middle of the rink. They make it really hard on you. They're big, long, and physical, so it's really important with our group that we continue to get to those hard areas of the rink. And just last couple games, I thought we did a really good job scoring goals in the areas where you need to score.
Okay, so before we get to Friday night, Thursday night, kids ringing the doorbell on the Leone residence. Are you handing out the full candy bar?
Oh, yeah, the full 4-pack Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Wow, you go Reese's, too. Top shelf.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so
my wife is she said Halloween's like her go-to. Our whole house is.
We're having this debate in our house, Gino. I don't know if I told you this. I mean, Sandy's thinking about going full size this year.
Wow.
Yeah, which would be a big step because my wife is cheap, straight up. Like
Yeah, my wife. I don't have a choice on Halloween. It's like her.
Somebody somebody told her, like, when you do the math, that it might actually be cheaper and less wasteful to have the full-size candy bars at the ready instead of the value packs filled with the little ones, because there's always leftover candy, and I'm always the one that's like, get that candy out. Can you return Halloween candy if you don't use it? Just bring it back to the store. We're done with it.
No, we have a stock, like we have a cabinet full of our house, and the kids. My wife keeps everything. I think as soon as August ends, my wife is putting out Halloween.
All right, so I'm going to guess that based on what you said about the full size, that you got Reese's Cups as number 1 on your power rankings for Halloween candy. Do you have a top 3?
Reese's. God, put me on the spot.
Are you a chocolate guy or a candy guy? A chocolate guy or a sugar guy?
Chocolate for sure. I would go Reese's. Man, Almond Joy. I know a lot of people.
Ooh, that's controversial.
For sure.
Controversial take.
No, a lot of people wouldn't like that. I like that. Maybe Skittles.
Yeah. Okay. So you mix in a little sugar in there.
Yeah, that's all good. Now, does your wife make you decorate the house? You don't have
no,
time to do that.
I don't do that.
Oh, good.
I don't do that. No.
Well, Coach,
participate in that.
we wish you best of luck this weekend at Utica. We look forward to seeing the boys back on the ice a week from Friday with Hartford in town. We know how exciting that's going to be. We wish you a happy Halloween as well. And before we let you go, Mossbrooks, step over here because, Gene, we can't not share the story of another instance of the patented Battaglia big time happened. And we've talked about this before.
No, you're putting Andrew on the spot. We got to get to break.
Andrew,
thanks for listening here to the fan.
Andrew,
Rochester.
Go ahead and jump on that. Yeah, just if it's okay, just share the story. Another one to add, another chapter in the book of Battaglia big timing people.
First off, it's great to be back with you guys.
It's awesome having you on with us, Andrew.
Ann Tokarski is in the studio.
Yeah.
But, well, Gene came in the summer looking like $1 million, as he always does. And as he came through, said hi to everybody, name dropped, who he knew, Andrew, Ryan, Julie, goes to Ann.
Name dropped.
And says, I'm sorry, do I know you?
Do I know you? You got to do I know you from this guy.
A jaw drop in August. I couldn't believe it.
No, but then he calls me out right away to Ann. He's like, oh, you got Bobby big time. And then as soon as I said that, I'm like, it's Ann. Oh, I can't. It was hanging out there. I couldn't take it back.
Yeah.
Immediately got back to the office, write the email of apology because
Yes.
that's unprofessional.
Yep.
And
Well, okay, so you made good on that promise. And we've had instances, I don't know if you know this or not, there have been multiple instances of the Battaglia big time. We've had it with listeners. It's becoming a book. We really could write a book on how to big time somebody,
Yeah.
authored by Gene Battaglia.
I can't believe that you gave me the time to talk about this now because I'm looking at the clock and I know you have an autograph signing at 5 to get to. So, you guys are really maximizing these minutes.
Andrew, thanks for stopping
it's
by.
Don this week, right?
Don in Utica, and then I'll be taking the Cleveland game on Wednesday.
Very
Okay,
good. We'll
very
look
good.
forward to the call, and you're doing a great job. As always, and Nan, you're doing a great job on the social media as well.
Yes, yeah.
I'm going to try to not big time you the next time we cross paths like my degenerate co-host over here. We're going to talk some fantasy football next. Michael F. Florio from the NFL Network stops by the Fan Rochester. Waiver Wire Day on Fantasy Football. Michael F. Florio talking some fantasy football at NFL Network and joining us here in the Sports Bar with some targets, some pickups that you might consider as you're making some changes to your roster. And we've got some news of the day, F. We appreciate you stopping by the Sports Bar. Deontay Johnson is now a Baltimore Raven, so my guess is that he's probably not on the waiver wire, but let's talk a little bit about what he could be now in that Ravens offense, an offense that's been putting up a lot of points so far this season.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I think this is a good move for the Ravens. It helps Lamar Jackson. If Deontay Johnson is what I believe he is as a player, he should be able to become the top target for Lamar and the Ravens. But I do think this is a downward move for his fantasy value because he was the unquestioned top target with the Panthers. Now, I know it is a huge quarterback upgrade, but the Ravens do have a lot of options here with Zay Flowers, with Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and they do tend to, one, run the ball a lot, no surprise there, but two, they spread it out. So for me, I think this puts Deontay Johnson and Zay Flowers both in that wide receiver 3 range, but there is efficiency could help elevate them, and there is upside because of the offense that they are tied to. But if you do want a name that is on waiver wires, grab Xavier Legette from the Panthers because now with Johnson gone, a bunch of targets up for grabs. He was a first-round pick, just scored a touchdown this past week, has upside, and now there's opportunity for him to build and showcase that upside.
Yeah, as far as situations that are changing, there are two other headline stories in the league today, Houston and Indy. Let's start with Indianapolis. I don't think you could get two quarterbacks with opposite styles like the backup Joe Flacco, who now actually takes over for Anthony Richardson. So I guess it's a question of overall about the Colts offense, maybe a Colts offense that we haven't been paying much attention to. How do you project everything moving forward now that you have Joe Flacco under center?
I think this is, for fantasy purposes, this is a better move for the Colts. I do think it was short-sighted to give up on Anthony Richardson, or I know they're saying they're not giving up on him. He has played 7 full games in his NFL career and is 22 years old. But for this season, this is a good thing for the Colts wide receivers because Richardson has the lowest completion percentage and adjusted completion percentage in the NFL right now. They weren't getting open a lot and they had a lot of drops, but that's besides the point. We have seen Josh Downs and Michael Pittman Jr. play better with Joe Flacco. In fact, Pittman Jr., double-digit fantasy points in every game with Joe Flacco, single-digit fantasy points in every game with Anthony Richardson this year. So those two, the arrow is pointing up for. And Josh Downs, someone that is probably on a decent amount of waiver wires, so you could check there. Alec Pierce is still boomer bust, but this is a good thing, too, for Jonathan Taylor, not just because there could be more scoring opportunities if the offense takes a step forward with Flacco, but because Richardson is so mobile, he does not dump it off a lot. Flacco is the exact opposite in that regard and will get the ball out quickly to his running back if he feels pressure.
Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, our guest in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia talking some fantasy football on waiver wire day. And if there's a player out there who I most regret not drafting or not being able to swing a trade for earlier this year, it's Houston wide receiver Tank Dell, who at least here in the immediate future, I would imagine, Mike, has a ton of upside in this Texans offense.
He does, but I also think it might not be as much as it seems because this week they play the Jets on a short week. He is probably going to see a lot of Sauce Gardner. And then reports, at least as of today, are that Nico Collins will be back in Week 10. So we know Nico is the alpha target there. He is going to be the wide receiver 1. Tank Dell was boomer bust when both wide receivers were there. We have seen him become a little bit more consistent. He did still put up a 0 2 weeks ago without Nico Collins as he continues to work himself back from a severe injury and getting shot in the summer. So I think we still have to be a little patient with Tank Dell, but yeah, there's definitely upside there now because we saw it last season when it's just 2 wide receivers there. They might alternate big weeks. Nico Collins and Tank Dell, at least that's what they did last season. I don't think that'll be the case this year. I think Nico is the guy. But Tank has a high upside, and the more volume that a player gets, the more chances of them hitting and showing off that ceiling. So, yeah, the arrow is definitely pointing up for Tank Dell moving forward.
One matchup that a lot of us are going to be watching, and they put it in the late afternoon window, Detroit and Green Bay. This is a marquee matchup. I mean, we're not taking line players out of the fantasy lineup, certainly, but what do you do here with Green Bay? I would assume if we get to Friday and they're going to say limited for Jordan Love, are we still feeling comfortable with the Packers in this matchup, Michael?
No, and the timing could not be worse because this had shootout written all over it. The Lions have been getting torched by wide receivers all year. They really struggle against slot receivers, so it could be a good day for Jaden Reed. They play a lot of man, and Romeo Doubs has been the man beater. So those were two players that I was really fired up to talk this week. But if Jordan Love is injured, we have seen what it looks like with Malik Willis. 1 touchdown per game has been what he has done in his spot starts this year. A lot of running the ball. I think if you play any of them, it would be Jaden Reed because he is the short, quick target, and the Lions have struggled against slot receivers. But ideally, I don't love any of them if it is Malik Willis. And I know you said we're probably starting our Lions. I actually have Jared Goff as a potential sit this week.
Ooh.
Not anything to do with like home road splits because that is a couple years ago. What we have figured out is it is indoors or outdoors versus Jared Goff. And this is his first outdoor game of the season. So not a must sit. But if you have the capability, if you have another quarterback that you feel good about on your roster, or maybe you picked up like Matthew Stafford or Bo Nix or something like that, I would play the other player this week over Goff.
Yeah, 57 in rain they're calling for in Green Bay Sunday.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
And his first outdoor game of the season. There's another quarterback who very quietly is having himself a really, really good season. And we won't see him until Monday night. I'm not talking about Patrick Mahomes. I'm talking about Baker Mayfield. So tell me a little bit about what you saw out of Mayfield, his first game without Godwin, without Evans, because it feels like the production didn't really drop off that much with Tampa Bay's offense.
Stat-wise, it did not, even though he did throw 2 interceptions this week. But it was a lot harder for him to come by because it was a lot more going to Cade Otton and a lot more dump-off passes to the running backs. Now, I think Baker Mayfield is going to be fine long-term because they'll get Mike Evans back eventually. Jalen McMillan stepped up last week. I don't necessarily love him this week, though. I wasn't brave enough to call him a straight-up sit, but it depends because the Chiefs have been elite not only at taking out run games and running backs in the passing game, but they have been really tough on wide receivers as well. I would argue that they are the best defense in the NFL, which is why they are undefeated, despite the fact that their quarterback has more interceptions than passing touchdowns this year. But so not a straight sit for Baker Mayfield or anything like that, but more a matchup where you could start him, but just don't be surprised if he doesn't put up his usual numbers this week.
Yeah, speaking of numbers, the game with the highest over-under this week is Dallas and Atlanta. Is that just kind of a statement here, Michael, on where we are with the Cowboys? I'm watching that Sunday night, and I'm not thinking for a minute there that the 49ers are ever in any trouble in that game. So how comfortable are you playing Falcon players here going against Dallas here, where the Falcons favored by only 2.5?
I love the Falcons this week. I think Bijan is a must-start every week, but especially this one, the Cowboys have really struggled against the run. My guy Kyle Pitts is breaking out before our eyes and become a must-start option. Drake London, even though he disappointed last week, you play him every week. And then Mooney has proven that he can be a very reliable fantasy wide receiver 2 or 3 in this offense. I feel so much better about their offense and their side of the ball than I do the Cowboys, who aren't getting open. They're having issues with drops. Dak doesn't look like Dak, and it's really CeeDee Lamb or bust right now with the and I would say Jake Ferguson maybe too, but options are very thin in Dallas right now.
All right, Michael, we mentioned Xavier Legette earlier when we were talking about potential waiver wire pickups. Who have we left off the list so far? Are there other guys out there that you think might be worth a couple of units here as we're making our waiver wire selections for tonight?
Yeah, I'll be honest. It is not the best week of waiver wire targets, but Cade Otton is still out there in some leagues. He is a must-add. Cedric Tillman is out there in leagues. And look, Cedric Tillman is playing the Amari Cooper role for the Browns. In the last 2 weeks, he is top 2 in the NFL in targets and air yards, which is exactly what Amari Cooper was doing for them. So Tillman is a must-add this week. And then a couple of quarterbacks, Matt Stafford and Bo Nix, I think, are must-adds. And Keon Coleman, like, a lot of people dropped him after the Bills acquired Amari Cooper, and I kind of understand why. But Coleman is breaking out in front of our eyes right now. You see exactly why myself and many other people thought he was a perfect pairing for Josh Allen with that end zone touchdown last week. And look, I'm just going to keep saying it. You guys remember what the narrative was Thursday night in week 1 when the season opened up and Worthy had all those touchdowns. So I'm going to ask the question now. How did the NFL let the Bills get Keon Coleman?
I know. We've been saying the same thing all week.
Yeah,
it's just too bad the Chiefs weren't able to capitalize on that. They've had such a hard time here the last few years.
I love it. Michael F. Florio, Met fan, Bills fan. Look, Michael, at least the Mets took the Dodgers to 6.
Hey, I have a lot of Yankee fan friends who were talking after the Mets got eliminated, and I've been sitting on my hands waiting. But if tonight the sweep is completed, I'm going to be talking a whole bunch.
Tell us about where we can get more of your work here leading up to kickoff on Sunday, Mike.
Yeah, Twitter at Michael F. Florio is the place to get it all. NFL.com, NFL Network, and rotoballer.com as well. So plenty of places to check it out.
He's our favorite, Michael F. Florio. Thanks for our time today, buddy. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Go Bills.
You got it. Michael F. Florio. Giving you some fantasy football advice before you make your waiver claims for this weekend's action. Week 9. I can't believe it's already week 9.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like, I never would have guessed that's the highest over or under. I would have thought it would have been Detroit, Green Bay, but maybe the Jordan Love keeping it over. But, yeah, this Dallas, they couldn't be the team that completely implodes this week. The Jets they're already done, but Dallas seems like they're on life support.
They really do. Before we get to break, who's hot and who's cold?
I'm going to go with a player that's hot who has a great matchup this week. Okay, because this guy's coming off a 100-yard game with 2 touchdowns. He went over 100 yards from scrimmage and scored 3 touchdowns last time they played. I'm talking about James Cook.
Yeah.
James Cook tore up the Dolphins. He would have had more in that game, except it was 31-3 at that point. Let's get him out of here. So James Cook, our hot player right now. Who's cold? What would you think of a receiver right now, Danger, that has 1 touchdown on the season, is averaging only 5 targets a game? That's not a receiver you should be starting. Those are the numbers for Bears rookie receiver Rome Odunze.
Yeah, much to the chagrin of my 15-year-old daughter, who's absolutely smitten. Loves Rome Odunze.
Well, let Rome show you something before you put him in the lineup.
Who's hot and who's cold in fantasy football, brought to you by AirQuip Heating and Air Conditioning. It's fun and challenging to know when to start a player that's heating up or bench one who's cooling off. It's not fun to be too hot or too cold in your home or business. Make the best lineup call you can and call AirQuip today. Happy Hour is next in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. We have plenty of thoughts and observations from the sports equinox last night, including a Game 3. The Yankees just kind of look like they're sleepwalking through this entire series, Gino. It's all on tonight.
That's it. Game 4 tonight. Can they pull this out? It's crazy to think it rides on one guy. I'll tell you who that is.
All right, we're going to get to that and more next. A round of shots coming up. And don't forget about last call. You can have the final say when you dial us up at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Leader 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Yankees need a win tonight to keep their season alive. The Dodgers going with a bullpen game. The Yankees starting Luis Heel, Game 4 in the Bronx at 8 o'clock tonight on Fox. Sean McDermott on this week's quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa.
Number one, glad he's okay. That was scary to watch. Number two, it appears obviously that he's back and playing at a high level. So they're a good team, a good offense, and we're going to have our work cut out for us this week here.
Bills back on the practice field tomorrow. News from the NFL today. Houston wide receiver Stephon Diggs. Diggs is out for the year. He has a torn ACL. The Ravens make a trade. They trade for wide receiver Deontay Johnson. It's a pick swap with Carolina. And the Colts announcing they're going to start Joe Flacco at quarterback, benching Anthony Richardson. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Buffalo's just been so dominant against Miami that I don't see how they can come into Buffalo and win this game.
I'm feeling really confident going into this week how the Bills have performed the last 2 weeks against bad teams. I'm expecting the Bills to take care of business and blow that team out and really probably end their season.
Mike Danger.
The Bills moved to 6-2, and yeah, we've been popping off all day. We've been popping off all day because you've got 4 more wins than your next opponent, the Miami Dolphins, coming up on Sunday. I have a hard time not seeing it be a blow. I mean, the way the Bills have always handled the Dolphins, and I know you're going to say, oh, be careful.
Gene Battaglia.
You beat the Dolphins. You're up 5, but then you have the head-to-head. You're up 6. They're gone. I don't think it's crazy to think that the game against the 49ers in December might clinch the division if you continue to win.
We are calling the AFC East for the Buffalo Bills.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, 1 week away from Election Day, and we're already calling this race. It's over. It is over. We are projecting that the Buffalo Bills will take the AFC East and find their way into the postseason.
The guy that the Yankees really need to step up in a way that he hasn't this year. Oh, he's been good. But if they can get something special out of Luis Heel tonight, and Luis Heel started the season so great. Yeah. The last time he pitched out of the 7th inning, Danger, got to go back to May 29th. I mean, in fact, he doesn't last more than 5 here. So literally the way this has gone down the stretch for Luis Heel and the Yankees, can they get something special out of him tonight? And the way the Dodgers work counts and the way the bottom of their lineup is, to me, start with Ohtani. Ohtani tonight, he's injured. Sometimes there's a difference between hurt and injured. Can you agree? Wait a second, he's out there, and if it's not the World Series, he's on the injured list. We're not seeing him for a month. He might need surgery. He's swinging with one arm. That's not the show. Hey, just throw strikes at him and let him put it into play and see what you can do here. So I'm just pulling for my Yankee fan friends here tonight, Danger. I don't want to see this end in 4 games.
By the way, what did I get here? I always like to show off when, I'm not going to lie. I can be bought. You want to be friends?
Oh, yeah.
Shower me with gifts. Heap praise on me. I'll become your best friend really, really quick. We appreciate you watching the Sports Bar on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. I got a new beer koozie, and it's got a dog on it, and it says, "Drinks on me. Go Bills. Love Basil." Basil the Bulldog, it looks like, right?
Yeah.
This is what Joey Kipchoge and Monica were handing out at their wedding?
Yeah,
I love this so much.
Their wedding was on the 19th, and saw them recently. They're like, oh, make sure you get one of the wedding favors. I mean, what did you have? Who knows? The wedding favor, it's such a, generally speaking, a waste of money. Oh, here's some little trinket that you'll just throw out when you get home.
There's a difference between guys and girls, right? We are not really wired this way. I didn't really want to put a lot of thought into the wedding favor. I think we had 2. I think we had little miniature silver picture frames.
Oh my God, we did the same thing.
And we also did, because Sandy's family is from a region of Italy. It's called confetti, although it's not the confetti that we think of. It's candy-covered almonds that they call confetti. and I guess they manufacture it like they have many manufacturing plants and factories around where Sandy's family is from. So we did confetti, and we did the little mini silver picture frames. If you asked me, I'd be like, yeah, beer koozies for everybody. Let's do beer koozies.
Yes.
Do you think I would get that passed by? There's no way I'm getting that passed by my wife. You know why, Gene? 'Cause she's Italian.
Any good salesman, Danger? You don't make the sale the day of. You start laying the groundwork right now. I'm talking years down the road for your girls. Anybody going to eat some candy almonds or anything? No. Like when your girls, you're ready to walk them down the aisle, the beer koozie. Love that.
The beer koozie as a wedding party favor is a strong move. It's a strong play, and we've mentioned it before, but a big congratulations to Joey and Monica. Do we call them? Do we anoint them the first couple of the sports bar? I think they are the first couple of the sports bar.
Yeah, she's now Ms. Whalen.
Ms. Whalen.
Ms. Whalen.
Oh, there was also another adorable couple, but we haven't really seen a ton of him recently. Remember Walmart Josh Allen?
Oh,
yeah. Walmart Josh Allen's doing some big things as well. Big fan of Walmart Josh Allen, who came out to Three Heads.
Walmart Josh.
Yeah, he's engaged as well, and they're one of our favorite couples as well. But we appreciate Joey and Monica, and Monica, thanks for the beer koozie. It's in the official studio fridge of the sports bar, ready to be used at a moment's notice.
I thought you were gonna crack one open right on cue. There, are we tapped out? I think we're tapped out.
I'm not going to confirm nor deny. Let's not ask questions about what we've got in the official fridge of the sports bar. Okay, let's just keep it between you and I, and we'll talk about it during break. We'll talk about it. But boy, so we got the Yankees tonight, and a do or die, obviously, looking to just extend this series, in a series that the Dodgers have just done everything better than the Yankees and hasn't really been close. We've got a Monday Night Football game to react to from last night, although the bigger headlines, I think, from the NFL today center around the trade deadline, which is approaching a week from today, and the Ravens making a move to acquire Deontay Johnson. Turns out he was available after all from Carolina.
Oh, my gosh, yes. What a deal the Ravens got here. Carolina, you couldn't get more? A sixth round for a fifth round. Mm-hmm. 1 round pick swap. That's all it took for Deontay Johnson. I mean, if anything, because I still think they play twice, right? The Ravens and Steelers. It spices it up a little bit, but that's not changing my projection about the Ravens. I still think the Ravens are going to be a problem for Buffalo, wherever that game is. We all can kind of recognize it, but this doesn't mean the Ravens are about ready to get over on the Chiefs because they added Deontay Johnson. The story I think that is the most interesting, and it's almost like we forecast this yesterday accidentally. I just didn't think they would actually do this because NFL teams normally don't do this. Normally, we're going to stick with our guy. And when we talked to Matt Perino earlier, he brings up the point many would bring up. If you make the investment at quarterback, particularly if it's a top 5 quarterback, you really going to pull this out after 10 games? Is that enough of a sample size? Or are you trying to give him more reps and have him figure it out? The Colts sitting at 4-4 weren't about ready to figure it out here and wait. Anthony Richardson with a 44 completion percentage, which is really, really, really bad, takes a seat. Joe Flacco is going to be starting Sunday night against the Vikings.
I just view this as Shane Steichen not getting everything that he bargained for out of Anthony Richardson. And when Shane Steichen made a name for himself in Philadelphia as the offensive coordinator, Jalen Hurts was his quarterback and largely his running back as well, because he was effective on the ground as he was as a passer. And you saw Steichen work. I mean, his first draft with the Colts, he goes and he gets Richardson, and everybody could connect the dots and be like, oh, Shane Steichen got himself his Jalen Hurts for Indianapolis. Well, Richardson's very green still. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of experience, and I think what you've seen out of him so far is just not good enough. At a team that's 4-4, you're farting around. Your best chance to win actually resides in Joe Flacco. Richardson's not going anywhere. This is part of his development. I'm just saying right now, a player who is a liability when he's on the field and checks out of a game.
Well, that's the part. Like, if you are a head coach and you want to keep the locker room, what's everybody else saying? Like, something you never, ever see in the NFL. A quarterback who's healthy, who's just tired.
That's the leader of your team. And so you need a higher standard. And it's a lesson that he'll learn from, I'm sure. But right now is not his time. Right now, he's not the dude. It doesn't mean that he can't be down the road. And maybe it takes another off season before we actually see Anthony Richardson unlocked to his full potential. But he's not what Steichen had in Jalen Hurts. Richardson, you mentioned the completion percentage. It's terrible. He leads the league in fumbles. 6 fumbles. More interceptions than touchdown passes.
There's not much to like
There's
about
nothing.
There's nothing to like about his game right now, but still somehow they're 4-4. I'll agree with Perino on this. Ultimately, the Colts are doomed. Okay? Yes, Flacco could lead you to really some fun victories like he did with the Browns, but what's going to happen when you face a good defense in the postseason? Anybody remember, Brown fans? Yeah, you do remember what happened. So ultimately, the way I see this story going is this isn't the last we've heard from Richardson. Can Flacco maintain his health here for the second half of the season? And if he does, all right, if he does hit a little bump in the road, are we playing musical quarterbacks here?
There is an element, though, to a young quarterback versus a veteran quarterback and the rest of the guys wanting to play for that quarterback. You certainly can see it when Flacco is on the field in Indy. You saw it last year when he was on the field in Cleveland. Hell, you saw it this last weekend in Cleveland when Jameis Winston got behind center after Deshaun Watson blew out his ACL. And when you look around the NFL, you see instances of this with regularity. It feels like in Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson is a guy that they're going to play for more so than Justin Fields. The opposite end of that is their opponent from last night and Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. Just zero confidence in that guy to be the kind of leader you need on the field. So I'm less worried about Richardson. I know that the sample size, I think the sample size is large enough, but I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're not even giving him a chance. He was a top 5 pick. He's going to get more chances, just like Bryce Young is getting more chances in Carolina, and maybe there's something there. You get to see something, or you just get the reps that can lead us to believe whether you are or you are not the dude for your team. But right now, it'll be Joe Flacco in Indianapolis, and you would imagine probably Joe Flacco when the Bills face Indianapolis here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's taking a look at the other story here, too. If we had to kind of rank them, this is certainly in the top 3, too. The fact that it is official, Stephon Diggs is out for the year. And does this sidetrack Houston? I don't know. I think it's sad for Diggs. Can we just kind of admit that? Because this injury is going to cost him a lot of money. He was due to be a free agent. And how are you going to invest in a player? How can he command top dollar danger if he's not healthy to begin spring practices? And he's going to be 31. So I just hope that when we look back at Diggs and his time in Buffalo, that we're not saying selfish player, me first player.
I'm not. I can't do it. I mean, we'll have a lasting memory of the drama of Diggs when he was here, and I know that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, that he's a me first guy and he's only thinking about it. I just view him, I've always viewed him as more competitive than the guy next to him, the most competitive guy in the organization, the guy that wants it no matter what and is willing to do it no matter what. And he wasn't right with everything that he did and how he dealt with himself all the time, but I guarantee you there are things around Diggs and his outbursts and his antics that we don't know, that will never come to light. And he's probably not wrong on everything in terms of how he reacted to some of the situations that he was in while in Buffalo. I'm always going to view him as one of the best Bills wide receivers in the team's history. And I hate to see that he's out with a torn ACL. It's bad news for the player. It's bad news for the Texans. The league is better when you have stars in it, and Diggs is a star. And you're right, this is an injury that's going to cost him millions of dollars. It's a cruel, cruel league. We say it all the time, and we see it time and time again. And if you want more evidence of how quickly things can change, I mean, it was against the Dolphins last season where Trey White blew out his Achilles. And we remember that game in Orchard Park.
It was a fun day. You're blowing out, and I'm not faulting at all. I mean, there's still a lot of time left on the clock, and it's just one of those dumb plays where he's running, and as soon as he pulls up, you're like, oh, no, this is terribly wrong.
He
The
knew
crowd
it.
knew it.
Everybody knew it. It was like, okay, well, that might be it for Trey White in Buffalo, and sure enough, he gets released. Call me a bad NFL fan, Gino. I had not been keeping tabs on Trey White since earlier this year. We saw him in primetime, and I'm like, ooh, Trey White is getting torched. He's not looking great in this Rams defense, and he's actually been inactive for the Rams here the last 3 weeks. Word comes today, reports, and Sean McVay confirming those reports that Trey White has permission by the Rams to go seek a trade here with the trade deadline looming here a week from today.
Yeah, and when the player is, the agent's been, being given permission to call around, what does that tell you? It means there's no takers. How could there be? What would lead you to believe, like, hey, that's a guy that we want? To the point where, okay, the Rams end up, okay, you know what, we're just going to cut him. Oh, man, you would want Trey White over Kyrie Elam or Jamarcus Ingram. No, I'm sorry. I'm just judging this on 2024 alone.
Yeah, and that's, again, how quickly things can change. So back to Diggs, I just don't know, what he looks like next season when he's trying to command a high dollar after betting on himself. I hate the story. I just hate the story that he cuts up his deal, he gets the 1-year deal with the Texans, tears his ACL, and loses that bet.
But, and this was, our conversation with Perino dove into a lot of things, too. And it's not just the Diggs portion, but you look at everybody that Brandon Beane moved off of. Like Diggs and Trey White, we've already talked about. And Jordan Poyer's having a terrible year for Miami. That's going to come into focus again this week as the Dolphins are the opponent. And what's Jacksonville doing with the two players? Well, they're not winning, I can tell you that. Danger, the Bills moved off of a lot of players that were making money and had high cap figures that's going to hurt you this year. And the Bills actually got better. Is that fair to say?
Well, you always think of it as addition by subtraction, right? And I think that was what we were selling ourselves when it was all happening. And then you look at all the dead cap money, and I'm guilty of this. With all that dead cap money, there's no way you can roster a talented roster. You're going to have a bunch of guys, just a bunch of guys. Well, it turns out the bunch of guys that they have are guys that are familiar with this system, guys that know how to do their job, guys that Sean McDermott knows what to do with, and they know what to do. They're just part of what the Bills have built here through years of continuity, and they step up and they rise up to the occasion with little ill effect. I'm not saying it's been perfect, but it hasn't been terrible. You've seen Dorian Williams make plays. You've also seen him get torched. Same with Balen Spector. You're lucky your secondary has been healthy. DeMar Hamlin, sometimes gets blocked to the moon. Other times you see him making big plays. So it hasn't bit the Bills. Having the second largest dead cap figure in the league this year hasn't bit them the way I thought it would bite them. And it sets up at minimum for them to make moves next year or start paying the guys that you're going to reward for doing what they've been doing this year.
Yeah, that would be, I think in this order, Rousseau, Benford, James Cook, Terrell Bernard. Would you disagree with that? Or
I don't know. The Cook piece is interesting to me, and it's all I've really thought about as far as like long-term roster construction, because it would be the first time that we've seen the Bills with Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott make a significant financial investment at the running back position. And maybe it is a changing of times in the NFL when you see what's going on in Baltimore with Derrick Henry or in Philadelphia with Saquon Barkley. It would just be a departure of character. It would be something that they haven't done to this point. And when you think of the production that you got out of Ray Davis in one game without James Cook on the field, I would listen to either argument. I would listen to the argument that you let Cook walk, even though he's a star and you could call him elite at his position, and let somebody else overpay for that production.
You have to just you have to do the Pepsi challenge or Danger. You have to just kind of, all right, maybe that's not the right analogy. Just not look at the player, but just look at the position. Can we just all agree, never, ever, ever pay a kicker? Don't do it. Don't do it. The kid down in Dallas is going to want money at some point. Jerry will pay him that money, and it'll look really bad at some point. Running back to me is still in that position because as great as these guys are, Danger, so much contact, one hit, that's it. I mean, it's cruel. It's very cruel to kind of say it that way, but I wouldn't do it. When you look at some of the names at running back that are going to be on the market, Nick Chubb and all these talented players that are at the running back position, Aaron Jones, there's James Conner. They're all going to be free agents. They're all going to want their money too, and this is just next year. We're talking 2 years down the road.
Right.
2 years down the road. So,
I mean, at the time that you're having to deal with James Cook and making that decision, do you still have value at wide receiver if you're the Buffalo Bills, or are you paying Shakir $20 million a year?
Oh, my gosh, I forgot about Shakir, too, is going to be on that list.
Right, because you've got control on Coleman. We don't know what Cooper's future is. Samuel's locked down.
Cooper's a free agent.
Yep. So are you locking down Shakir, and what does that figure look like, and does that figure allow you to make an investment at running back that you just haven't done? I mean, James Cook, to me, better than what you had in Devin Singletary, better than what you had in Frank Gore, certainly at that stage of his career.
I put him up. We like to, because it really was kind of unsavory there with McCoy and some of the things off the field, but just looking from on the field. McCoy was really good with the Bills when he was here. He really was. So
special talent.
Yeah, James Cook is at that same level. And it's timely for us to bring this up, too, because James Cook, last time he played the Dolphins, heck, if they kept playing him, he might have had 5 touchdowns in that game. You can run on this Miami team as we really haven't dove into the, hey, are the Bills going to get upset this week? It's a divisional game. Sure.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And are the Dolphins trying to save their season? Of course they are. Can the Bills move the ball on Miami? Yes. It doesn't have to be complicated here. It really doesn't. It should be just James Cook. And then once you soften it up a little bit, bam, you're going to hit with that. Honestly, like that to me is the beginning and the end of this conversation here of Buffalo-Miami.
Yeah, I see a very uninspired Miami team. And they lost again with Tua back against Arizona. And maybe Arizona is getting better with each passing week. I'll listen to that. But I just feel like it's a Miami team that when you look around the rest of the NFL, they just look disengaged. I'm not going to say that they've quit on their coach. They just look.
He's so intelligent.
They just look disengaged.
So cool.
Yeah, he is. He's a character, all right. So he's a genius. I don't know if anybody has said that he's an offensive genius. I mean, he's good at getting, scheming fast guys into space. We'll see. We'll see how it all looks come Sunday. We're excited for it. Week 9 gets underway Thursday night with those Houston Texans and the New York Jets. We're watching Aaron Rodgers fail and flail, and then we'll have the Bills, of course, with their 1 o'clock kickoff. That's coming up Sunday afternoon from Orchard Park. Pre-game gets underway at 9 a.m. here on The Fan Rochester.
Chris writing in from Kentucky. McVape has shown he's a fraud. How many times in Hard Knocks was he giving a speech and everyone was checked out? His quirkiness is wearing thin. His I wish it was colder shirt is beyond laughable. He lost the team last season.
Have you seen snow before?
Yeah, it snowed in Alabama my first year. So it snows in Alabama, guys. I know. I mean, people don't know that, There's some people that just think, it just gets cold in Alabama. It does snow.
It's going to be rabid on Sunday. He has no idea, does he? I mean, he's been here before. He should know what to expect at this point. I have zero faith in Miami making it competitive. I think the Bills are going to just throttle them on Sunday.
Are we worried about Tyreek Hill? I'm going to say the reason I'm not. Like Christian Benford, some are saying he's playing the best in the league. I mean,
I'm always worried about a guy that has that much speed because if he gets any sort of separation, he could take it to the house, of course. But I don't see an inspired unit. I don't see the Dolphins as a team playing inspired football. I see them kind of checked out. They just short of quitting on their coach. I haven't seen them quit on their coach. Maybe we see it on Sunday. Maybe we see a game that is so lopsided that it looks like Miami has quit on their coach, and they have to start making tough decisions right away.
Okay, this is where I have to point out something that is contrarian, and you tell me what is the reason for this. Sharp money's going on the Dolphins.
How many points?
It's down to 6 now. It was at 6.5. Granted, it's only a half point. However, that looks fishy to me.
Bills like to cover, though, man.
No, they either cover or we come back and the world is on fire Monday because they lose badly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we can dive into that line and, of course, all the other lines from Sunday.
Whoa, way over. Sorry.
When we talk to PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetQL Network. He'll be stopping by the sports bar for his usual Wednesday afternoon visit tomorrow afternoon at 3:25.
What's shots coming up in the sports bar? What's going on with Connor McDavid? That's not good. We haven't talked at all about the Sabres on the Equinox Monday. That too. And then, oh my gosh, so much is going on in sports danger. Why is Tom Brady literally tweeting out mushy lyrics on social media?
You could have just ended with, why is Tom Brady tweeting, period. You're Tom Brady. Yeah, do we have to?
Why?
We'll get to a round of shots. We'll get to last call as well, 866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool. 585-866-4326.
Rochester. Does your smart speaker play ambient noise when you asked for sports news? Time for an upgrade. Tell it to play 95.7 The Fan and turn those static noises into thrilling play-by-plays. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
NFL news today. The Houston Texans have lost wide receiver Stephon Diggs for the year. The former Buffalo Bill has a torn ACL. Ravens today trade for wide receiver Deontay Johnson. The former Steeler comes over from Carolina in a pick swap. And the Colts announced they're going to start Joe Flacco at quarterback against Minnesota Sunday night, benching Anthony Richardson. Dan Orlovsky today on One Bills Live talking about the Dolphin offense.
It's still an offense that's very explosive. Buffalo knows they play it usually relatively well, but don't think that Tua's just coming back. It's going to take time for them to get used to each other again. Like they were humming this weekend.
The Bills listed as a 6-point favorite according to BetQL. Our coverage on Sunday will begin at 9 a.m. Game 4 of the World Series tonight. The Yankees need a win to stay alive. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The only way to take The Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
While we were in break, Freddie Freeman just hit another home run.
Actually, they already awarded him the MVP.
I
don't
good.
know if you knew that.
Yeah. It's a sad state of affairs for the Yankees, for sure.
That's 3 home runs in 3 games for the LA Star. Actually, he's homered in his last 5 World Series games dating back to his time with the Braves. That's incredible. It's going to be a bullpen game for the Dodgers tonight, which, well, that sounds great. When they did this against the Padres, they pitched 8 shutout innings.
Yeah.
Ben Kasparius will be the first guy up for L.A. tonight. He's a native of Connecticut. The Yankees turning to Luis Gil to save their season. L.A. up 3-0. Game 4, 8 p.m. tonight on Fox.
Well, look, if a miracle is going to happen, it has to start with one win, and maybe it happens on the arm of Luis Gil. But this series, these 3 games, man, it's hard to find anything that the Yankees have done better than the Dodgers. It's been a humbling 3 games for the New York Yankees.
Looking for an update. We do not have one in terms of Connor McDavid. This we do know. He returned to Edmonton.
Yeah.
This after he left the game in Columbus, his first shift in. It's a lower body injury. The Oilers captain tripped up by Blue Jackets defenseman Zach Werenski when he was crossing the blue line, and he crashed into the boards. The Oilers doing more testing today. They've called up 2 players, but we do not have an update as far as the injury status of Connor McDavid.
Right. It didn't look good, and you hate to see that this early in the season. Obviously the biggest star in the game who could potentially miss some time here is never good for the league. So we hope that he's okay and back on the ice soon.
Something that kind of it's a pet peeve of mine, right? I've read this a few times today that, hey, the Sabres, when they lost yesterday, they dipped back below 500. Timeout. If you're 4-4-1 in the NHL, is that 500? It is not, my friend. The last one means you lost. So the
loser point.
Yeah, it's the loser point. So the Sabres now at 4-5-1, 5-2 the final last night. UPL making 25 saves. Tage Thompson now has at least 1 point in his last 7 consecutive games. It was not a smart penalty. He got fined for it, actually. Rasmus Dahlin with a high stick last night. 4-game homestand wrapping up Friday night when the Islanders come to town.
I said it earlier this season, and I know that they were on a little bit of a winning streak there. I said it earlier this season about Rasmus Dahlin. I just need to see more out of the captain. If you're the captain of this team, then know where you need to be. Then stop giving up bad goals and taking bad penalties. You're the captain of the team. We expect more. I expect more. When you have that C on your chest, you've unlocked a different level. I'm just not seeing it yet.
No, when you're that high-level defenseman, you're getting paid as such, you should be the Rock of Gibraltar. You should be just that guy you can put out there in any situation, and there's too many
I
of those
want to
mistakes.
love the captain of my team. I want to love the captain of my team because he sets the tone, because he sets an example. And I feel like more times than not, we've got a guy who turns the puck over. He's sloppy in the defensive zone. He's not where he needs to be, gives up bad goals, and takes bad penalties.
He's average.
Fair.
That's it. That shouldn't be like what you're paying for. This is terrible. The young daughter of 49er cornerback Travarius Ward has died this after battling heart problems. Ward posting this today on Instagram that his daughter, Amani Joy, was going to turn 2 in November. The Niners are on bye this week. The team putting out a statement that they are devastated.
I mean, when you hear stories like that, and when you hear stories like Freddie Freeman's son, I mean, it humanizes these athletes. It reminds us that they're more than just these unbelievable stars who do things we only wish we mortals could do. I hate it, man. I mean, these stories are devastating, and God, it sucks when you hear a story like that out of San Francisco. And you know, I could sit here and say thoughts and prayers, but that doesn't do anything.
No, it doesn't do anything. But yeah, it's we'll see how they bounce back. I don't know if you can. First time in 20 years, a player from the Orlando Magic went for 50 points. 20 years. Paolo Banchero went for 37 in the first half alone, 50 overall in the Orlando win over Indiana. He is still just 21. The last player that scored 50 in 2004, Tracy McGrady.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Don't you feel old? 20 years ago.
Jeez.
Just 4 games in the NBA tonight. Doubleheader on TNT has a rematch of the Western Conference Finals between Minnesota and Dallas. That's at 7:30, followed by the New Orleans Pelicans and Golden State at 10.
Okay.
Finally, let's congratulate an expectant mother. 44-year-old Giselle Bundchen. And no, the father isn't her ex-husband. Rather, the jiu-jitsu boyfriend, Joaquin Valente. Brady was given advance warning about the news officially being leaked out. How did he respond? Kind of like a teen would, I guess. He took to social media, posting the lyrics to Landslide with 3 heart emojis as the chorus played. Landslide is the Chicks remake of the song that was originally created by Fleetwood Mac.
Got it. Okay, I like that song. I'm not overly familiar with the lyrics. I know that it's the heartfelt and introspective. Is that a song about being over the hill? What is that song about? I'm trying to remember.
I don't have any. Does it even matter? You're Tom Brady. What are you doing going to social media? I'm sorry. You have to let go.
Well, is it good for his brand? It's probably good for his brand.
No, it's not.
It's good for his brand. If you're a woman and you see Tom Brady do, oh, what a good guy. Oh. He still thinks about her. He's still there for her. She's 44 and she's nailing the jiu-jitsu instructor, but he's still there for. He's the bigger man. He's the bigger man. Oh, it's good for his brand. That's why he's doing it. I mean, if he did nothing, it probably wouldn't matter one way or the other. 44.
She's 44.
Good for her. Good for them. We have people in our lives that have had kids at an advanced age, and I'm not here to cast judgment. I will say, though, if you do go that route, don't come at me and tell me how great it is. Go sell that somewhere else. I'm not listening to that.
I would say this, and you and I are lucky, Danger, and we're both on number 1, and we want it to stay that way forever. But we have friends, and we know it's kind of tough. But
I can't relate.
You have to. My advice to anybody: you got to take the high road.
I can't relate. I can't judge, and I can't relate because if that's the appropriate way to handle it, I wouldn't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe he should have posted something. Maybe he didn't need to post anything at all.
You don't post anything at all. You don't go to social media. No. When you're doing your communication, because you're still parenting 2 kids here.
Yeah.
You just say congratulations and you kind of move on.
Well, I didn't hate his call on the Bills game. I mean, he did make it a little bit about himself there for part of it.
Of course.
But overall, I thought he made a couple of points where I'm like, yeah, he's not. I mean, mostly the points he was making about Seattle, just kind of looking like a team that was not really ready for prime time, kind of like growing into their own skin and learning under a new head coach. And you saw that play out as he was kind of observing that through the course of that game.
Tom, just dive into your broadcasting, okay, bud? Or better yet, just to be the owner of the Raiders. Pick one.
Pick one.
Pick one.
Let's get the last call next on the Fan Rochester, 866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool, 585-866-4326.
866-4FAN, 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Tomorrow on the show, always excited on a Wednesday to welcome in PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetQL Network and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider. He'll give us his favorite plays for this weekend in college and pro football, and Insider Calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all of the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
Yeah, we'll also talk to Greg Thompson from Cover One. Reason I think it's good tomorrow, we're already looking ahead to the trade deadline. What can the Bills do, or what would be difficult to do? I suppose they could do anything theoretically, but just realistically, when it comes to the salary cap, what can the Bills do here coming up?
I love that we're having him on as well, because if you haven't been able to tell the first 2 days of this week, I'm kind of like fixed in on James Cook. Like, I'm really, really curious to see what they do long term, not anytime soon. This isn't imminent.
I think it's part of a bigger conversation, though, when you say Shakir and Benford and Rousseau. That's the success of the Bills. It's not Josh Allen. It's that, oh, my gosh, all these guys are stepping up.
And you're not paying really any of them.
No, and you're going to have to.
Eventually you do, yes. Eventually the rent becomes due, and you just so happen to have a budding superstar running back in this league. And maybe he becomes somebody else's overpriced problem, or maybe you pay him for the first time. You pay somebody at that position to continue to build his legacy as a Buffalo Bill. I'm so fascinated and intrigued with what that looks like here over the course of the next 12 to 24 months with James Cook.
Yeah, or maybe you're letting him go to free agency.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we have Greg Thompson from Cover One joining us tomorrow afternoon. That's at 4:25 tomorrow afternoon in the Sports Bar. It was a fun afternoon here today, and if you missed any of it, feel free to check out the Sports Bar wherever you get your podcasts, and that includes the free-to-download Odyssey app. That's AUDACY. Search out the Sports Bar, and you'll find our conversation with Michael F. Florio. We did some fantasy football and targeted your Week 9 waiver wire pickups. Florio does a great job over there at NFL Network. Amerks head coach Mike Leone came in, and we also had another chapter added to the book of Bobby Big Time over here, Gene Battaglia, the Battaglia Big Time.
I'm glad you found it funny.
Matt Perino also stopped by, of course, doing great work covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. Nice little preview. First of all, nice little recap of the trip to Seattle and a preview of the Dolphins who are coming to town, take on the Bills on Sunday afternoon. So all those conversations available wherever you get your podcasts, including the free-to-download Odyssey app. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester. Have a great night.